happy to announce the launch of our new logo. We have evolved since our incorporation in 1997, and it is time to refresh our new look to reflect who we are today. Before I reveal our new look, however, walk with me while I take you through our journey of the last 25 years. Trust Bank was incorporated on July 3rd, 1997 and began operations on October 1st, 1997. Following the collapse of the parent company of its predecessor, Meridian, the CBG stepped in and recapitalized the bank and held the shares in trust, thus the name Trust Bank. In 1999, the first investors who responded to the IPO and paid $1.50 per share received their maiden dividend of 50 bututs per share. In 2000, the bank fully paid back its investment by declaring another dividend of $1.20 bututs per share, making it a cumulative dividend per share of $1.70, which was 20 bututs above the purchase price. Between 2002 to date, share capital has increased from $27 million to $200 million, indicating that the bank has grown organically by plowing back profits to increase capital, while at the same time paying dividends to shareholders. The bank was listed on the Ghana Stock Exchange in November 2002, being the first ever cross-border listing in the sub-region. Now let's talk about awards. The bank was awarded the insignia of the National Order of the Republic of the Gambia, ORG, in the year 2010 by His Excellency the President of the Republic of the Gambia. During the past years, the bank has received so many national and international awards. Banker Magazine, 6 times. Global Finance, 6 times. Gambia Chamber of Commerce and Industry, 5 times. We began operations with 3 branches. Now, we have 18 branches and 20 ATMs and counting. On digital services, mobile app, check. Online banking, check. Transaction alerts, check. Watch this space. We've got more coming. Creating employment, yes, we've got that too. 400 and counting. And we take great care of our people too. Medical insurance, life insurance, private and state pensions, annual pilgrimages for both Muslims and Christians, training, yes, we do them all. One team, one family, one goal. That's the Trust Bank spirit. On corporate social responsibility, we have spent over $50 million in various causes. We care, and so we share. Over the years, we have paid over $1.6 billion to our shareholders, which translates to a whopping $20 per share and counting. Phenomenal returns for our shareholders who purchased at $1.50. Corporate taxes, over $1 billion is paid. Our journey started with a vision to create the kind of company that delivers quality services and innovative products with an inspired team dedicated to serving our customers, our environment, and our communities at large in the most caring manner. We remain fully committed to delivering excellent services to each of our stakeholders, customers, employees, shareholders, and partners. So, we remain true to who we have always been. As we look forward to greater achievements, we are rebranding to reflect who we are today and the future that we inspire. Our new logo has been designed to visually demonstrate our Gambian heritage and the sophisticated nature of the bank. We are moving away from the navy and gold-colored parallelogram-shaped logo to our baobab tree with a rising sun in the background. The striking outline of a baobab tree at sunrise is a familiar sight to anyone who has spent time in the Gambia. Our new logo and visual identity are inspired by our core values and spirit of being a pioneer in providing a unique banking experience. It is a completely new look that better matches the transformation we have made as a company. But we remain your Trust Bank. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my singular honor to present to you our new logo and corporate identity.
For the first time in the history of the Gambia, Gambia Printing Publishing Corporation proudly introduces the Biliomatic exercise book printing machine. The machine has the capacity to print more than 20,000 books per hour. Yes, 20,000 books per hour. It also prints magazines, newspapers, calendars, flyers, normal books and all kinds of printed documents plus items at affordable prices. With the Biliomatic printing machine, GPPC can now render high-quality and non-size restricted printing service supply across the sub-region. Rush now and partner with GPPC for all your public and private printing service needs. Print with us today and you'd be offered highly professional, reliable and efficient service delivery by our team of experts. The Gambia Printing and Publishing Corporation is here to meet all demands and is reliable at all times. For more info, contact us on 437-4493 or 437-4402. GPPC is Gambian and it's yours.
Hello and welcome to another Kerr Fatou. It's Thursday the 28th and today is what, Gamo? Today is a public holiday, but of course we are here. You know, on television there's no public holidays. You're always there when you need to do a show or when you have a show going on. And of course we want to say happy Gamo to you all, especially the Muslim Ummah. We hope you all enjoyed the Gamo yesterday. And of course, today is another Thursday, and we'll be discussing very interesting issues, recent happenings in the country. And with me, I have lawyer Sheriff Kumba Jobe. Sheriff, welcome to the show for the first time.
Thank you, Fatou. It's good to be here for the first time.
Why is it difficult to get lawyers though on the platform?
Perhaps it is because of the nature of our job. We try to make sure that we do not come into public when we are not needed in public. So sometimes it's very difficult one to just abandon your comfort zone to come into a terrain which is uncharted sometimes. Because yes, we could also be very apprehensive to journalists. But because of that, we have to do some precautionary measures not to prejudice any interest, because as lawyers we represent various individuals. And, today you can make a comment that is quite comfortable with you. Tomorrow it can haunt you for a case that perhaps would have come onto your table, but because of your past, that can haunt. So we as lawyers, we are very much careful of that, and this is why we reserve our comments more on public issues than people may think we should come out and speak. Yeah.
But we are glad to have you here, because I think we will be talking about very important issues. And of course, Mustapha Kedawo, Mbita, welcome back.
I'm home.
Did I just say Mbita on the air? She will kill me. Welcome back to the show.
I'm home.
You're home. This is home, definitely. Of course, today we'll be talking about issues relating to investigative journalism and what the law says in regards to, what are the fine lines, right? Because the reason why some of these topics are important is for us to have a balance and understand what we do as journalists, but also what the law says versus that, because there have been a lot of comments regarding what is happening recently. We'll be also looking at, the 72-hour rule when people are detained, how long should they stay, and what the law says about that, and other access to lawyers, how, other related issues. But we'll also be talking about Mustapha's story that Malagan just released is crazy, I must say. When I had access to it a few minutes before it was released, it's damning, it's crazy. And we'll be talking about that also. But first, I want to give an update on the Mankamang story first. Mankamang, our colleague, was arrested and detained for 72 hours and was released on bail, charged with tampering, witness tampering, right? So he's right now on bail. So that is, that's the update on Mankamang. So we'll talk about that, because I think that's what really prompted this. If they're arresting Mankamang, I'm worried about you especially. I mean, us also, we did some interviews, and you don't know at what point is somebody a witness. Those things are also very important. So we'll be talking about that. But also, we also want to update on the Ousseynou Bojang incident, the suspect in the alleged shooting of the PIU officers. Ousseynou's lawyer did release a statement yesterday. For the first time, he had access to him. He was able to see him, and he spoke to him for 45 minutes. But he was with the investigative team. He's not at mile 2. So he released a statement and spoke about some of the incidents, what Ousseynou told him, his situation. So these are some of the things we wanted to know, because the police are not updating us at this point. Is it because the case is in court right now, so they cannot give any updates? All of those things we'll be discussing. But first, let's look at Mr. Jobe. Let's look at access to lawyers, right? For example, at what point should a person, whoever is in having issues with the law, at what point should they have an access to a lawyer when they are in detention?
Thank you, Fatou. I think that is a very good starting point. First, we need to understand as a society it behooves of all of us to ensure that we live in a very peaceful society and an orderly society. And that requires, once a person is suspected of having committed an offense, the police can come in and arrest him and try to ensure that if there is evidence to go to court, the person is bring to book. So in so doing, also due process is quite important. And our constitution guarantees the fundamental rights and freedom of a person, to the extent that once you are arrested, the constitution has put a very important emphasis. I think from my constitutional understanding is one of the provisions that where time is the shortest period of time, that is required for a person to access a lawyer. That is section 19. It indicates that once a person is arrested, within 3 hours, Within 3 hours, you must inform him the reason of his arrest. Within 3 hours, the same 3 hours, you must inform him his right to consult a lawyer. So it is the shortest time frame provided by our constitution. And that speaks to how important it is that a person is able to have access to a lawyer. So the constitution provides within 3 hours, you must be informed.
You said must.
You must. The constitution says shall even. This is why I am putting emphasis that you must be informed that you have right to consult a lawyer. That's a legal practitioner. And that's perhaps the importance of that is to ensure that before investigation kickstarts or before you are questioned by the investigating officers, you are able to have your lawyer to speak to you, understand the perimeter within which you are being investigated and guide you. Because sometimes you could be called upon by police and you go and speak to issues that you definitely should not speak, because they may run against you when the matter gets to court. And this is why the constitution ensures that you have proper legal advice before you are being questioned, because within 3 hours there cannot be any investigation that could start. So that's why the constitution said you need to have your lawyer. Then your lawyer could come. You talk to your lawyer first, ideally, or what is the best practice is to allow you to speak to your lawyer first before they start questioning.
Is there exceptions to this though, this rule? Because what we have seen, the reason why I ask this is, for example, in a murder case, like something like what recently happened, or in a case where it's like treasonous or anything around that, they set up investigative panels, they are trying to investigate, they're trying to talk to you. At that point, should that person still have access to a lawyer?
Indeed, the constitution has not provided any exception to that. Irrespective of the person involved, irrespective of the nature of the crime, no matter how heinous the crime is, you are entitled to be informed within 3 hours that you have right to consult a lawyer or to hire the service of a lawyer. So there is no exceptions. So whether you are charged with murder, whether you are charged with treason, whether you are charged with seditions, because so those are, or rape, whatever offense you are charged with, you are entitled to be informed within 3 hours that you need the service of a lawyer or you need to consult a lawyer. So that would avail you the opportunity perhaps to speak to your family to get you a lawyer, and the lawyer can come in and try to understand why you are arrested, what you are being investigated for, and he can guide you through the process. Because as a lawyer, more importantly, the criminal defense lawyer, you are to help your client to navigate through the criminal justice process to ensure that he does not say anything that would implicate him. He does not admit to crimes that he has not committed. So a lawyer is there to guide the person throughout the process. So it is important once that is done, even at the investigation. In modern system or it is a good practice that even if the person is to be questioned, there is a lawyer to be present. To be present and for the person to be taken through the process. So there is no exception. Whether you are a lawyer being charged or arrested, or whether you are a journalist, or whether you are a minister, or whether you are a farmer, or whether you are a fisherman, whoever the person is, if you are arrested within 3 hours, you must be informed that you have a right to consult a lawyer.
Now, interesting. So does that mean that that's openly telling us people's rights have been violated openly by the police? For example, I have seen, for example, when Bora was arrested, one of my colleagues, he was detained for, he was not told that, he was detained for 3 days, and he didn't, I think a day or so, he didn't even have access to a lawyer, he was questioned without even speaking to a lawyer. So stuff like that, when that happens, and brings to this question, who is policing the police? Who looks at all of these things and say, this is a violation, you are violating this person's right there? Who does that?
And this is important because even the Constitution has envisioned a situation where someone's fundamental right could be violated by any authority concerned. And this is why it says where you are unlawfully detained or arrested, you are entitled for compensations. And that goes to the extent, if you are to be informed within 3 hours of the right to consult a lawyer, or to be informed within 3 hours the right to the reason of your arrest, and that 3 hours elapse, and you are not being informed why you are arrested or the need for you to get a lawyer, you can sue the Inspector General of the Police and the Attorney General, yes, for compensation, because after that 3 hours is a violation. So who police the police is the citizen that should police the police, because we need to be aware of our rights. The Constitution is there for everybody. But unfortunately, or sadly, many of us speak of the Constitution without knowing actually what is there. Right, and sometimes that affects our ability to insist on our right, to say, look, this is my right, and if it is not respected, I can go to court for that. Do you understand? So people or the citizens really need to be aware of the content of the Constitution, because the Constitution, the fundamental rights are very sufficient to protect citizens. So if a citizen is violated, the only avenue to seek redress is to go to court.
In the instance where that citizen doesn't have access to legal representation, they cannot afford it, is there ways where the state is able to provide them legal counsel? Does that also make provisions for them to have access to lawyers within those 3 hours?
No.
Do we have that system here where you have legal counsel available?
Unfortunately, we don't. The only time or the nature of matters that the state would be required to provide you with a lawyer or legal representation is when you are charged with a capital offense, or an offense that attracts life imprisonment. If you cannot have the service of a lawyer, the law requires that the state to provide you a lawyer to help you through the process. And this is why the state established the National Agency for Legal Aid, which is a government entity or a department that provides legal representation to people that are charged with murder or charged with crimes that attract life imprisonment or death. Or you are a child, because they also come in. If you are a child charged with an offense, the law requires that if you cannot have a lawyer on your own because of your financial status or other financial considerations or other reasons, then the state should provide you with that representation. So where you are to enforce your fundamental rights as guaranteed under the Constitution, you do not have a lawyer. Unfortunately, we do not have mechanism in this country or an institution or entity that could provide you at the expense of the state. But however, I am aware of organizations that do provide assistance, or we call it legal aid or pro bono, or legal services to people who cannot afford those services. But they are very limited. And also the one that I know, also the capacity sometimes is a problem, because you need to have lawyers who would sacrifice their bills to be able to do that. And it's very difficult for you for lawyers to forget about their bills and just to help. But ordinarily, we do that every day as lawyers. Now even it's part of our laws that every year, for your practicing certificate to be renewed, you must show that you have rendered legal services. It's not a law even. Sorry to say that. I think it's before the National Assembly for consideration.
Oh, good.
Yes, before the National, where it would be an obligation upon every lawyer annually, before your practicing certificate is renewed, which entitled you to practice within that 12 months, a particular year, that you show to the General Legal Counsel that you have rendered pro bono services to the indigents or people who cannot do that.
That will help in helping, to give some of us free legal aid.
Indeed, but that will also take our money out from us.
Yeah. Now I'll come back. Mustapha, let me come to you. As an investigative journalist, somebody who Mulligan strictly specialized in investigations, at what point do you look at something or someone and say, I'm investigating this incident, or I'm investigating this person or this situation? At what point you make that determination?
So you know, this differs from one organization to another. Bigger organizations that have a lot of money to spare,
Yeah.
They can decide, you know, even with a simple hunch, that okay, I think the way these figures come, they don't make sense. Maybe there is somebody may have cooked this data,
Yeah.
and then begin the work. Because they have a lot of money, they have a lot of staff maybe. For us, we start working on it. Even for us, sometimes when the stakes are high, we start working on a story that does not come with a lot of evidence. But in a lot of cases, we start working only when some basic evidences are already established that wrongdoing has occurred. So for example, you may have an audio recording of a guy who has recorded a scene of a bribe, as in the case of Dr. Banjo.
Yes.
And now that provides you a lead to now establish whether this was a bribe, what time it happened, who were there, and then begin to flesh the muscles and the body, the flesh around the bones. That's the issue. But the problem with the police, particularly the one he's referencing, is that the Gambia police often puts the, do they say horse before the cart or cart before the horse? Either way.
Yes.
Okay.
You know, so when you begin an investigation, usually, and this is the best practice, the people you end up speaking with are the people who you are investigating.
Yeah.
So you must have gathered
All your
facts, and then now
Put it to
use
them.
this to confront
them.
them. Gambia police would put themselves under significant pressure, go ahead and arrest someone, and then now want to investigate. It doesn't work like that. It creates a complication. Sometimes for someone like me, working mostly on corruption cases, even at the beginning of the investigations, I do have a chat with someone.
Charles, can you look at Mustapha's audio, please? It's very, very low. It's very, very low.
So even at the beginning of a corruption investigation, I can have a chat with someone. But at this time, it is my persons of interest. It's not an interrogation. At this point, it is just an basic informational interview. So for example, I would ask you about the general issues around your work. I would ask you a few issues in respect to the subject we are investigating. Like Rennie, for example. Let me give a concrete example. We've investigated Rennie Shash, the white guy who is involved in our diplomatic scandal. A diplomatic passport scandal. I was involved in illegally printing our passports. I've met him several times. He invited me to his wedding and all that. And most of the meetings I had done early with him were just me knowing him. Me getting to ask him about normal questions. What do you do? What does your company do? Your cryptocurrency stuff. What kind of businesses do you invest in? Who are your friends? Where do you live? Things like that. And then when I have accumulated, because as I was doing that, me and my colleagues were also working on things relating to him and his business. You know, whether it was some of the companies he had registered in the Gambia, the address he provided to those companies, and we were following up and visiting those places. What sort of business, if any, this guy was doing? Who are the lawyers making the memorandum for him? And registering his companies, and getting to know all those, and getting to know what are informations available on him outside of the Gambia. Where was this guy before he came here? Who are the people he was contacting with at State House? So at some point, Rennie himself knew I was contacting, because when people knew I was investigating him, the authorities, ministries and others started cutting him loose, you know, So, for example, he went to Ministry of Agriculture. They were supposed to have a meeting with him. Supposedly, he was to build a smart agricultural facility in Kiang.
In Badu.
And they gave him a big land, actually.
Okay.
So he was supposed to arrange a meeting at the Agriculture Ministry. But when I met some guy, very responsive at the ministry at the time, because there are also very good people
In the system, yeah.
And when I met him and I told him, well, we are working on this guy. And at this point, he has all marks of a fraudster, of an international con artist. You know, he's operating a Ponzi scheme and all of that. And when I presented some bit of evidence to him, and he told me, so what do I do now? I told him, when he comes, tell him to go to Gaipa. Because I know con artists like that, they don't go to Gaipa. They go through to politicians, to the State House, and to ministries. They don't go to Gaipa because they know when you go to Gaipa, the professionals who are trained in that area, they are going to ask you the right questions. So they don't go to Gaipa. So when he came, the guy told him, I think I'm afraid you have to go to Gaipa. And so he leaves that there. And so when he realized I was asking questions and making life complicated around, at that point my story was almost done. So I was now to meet him. So he called me, Mustapha, why are you asking around about my businesses? And you know, I told him I want us to meet. I want us to have a sit down. And he promised to have a sit down. I was there and a friend of mine contacted me. I contacted the border post and someone told me I had left Gambia for Senegal through
the borders.
Yeah, because if you leave, your trace is there.
Yeah.
So that is what an investigation is. You don't bring someone into a room and have them sit down
and ask them questions
and tell me this is a panel and start asking them questions. That's not an investigation. You don't put an interrogation before an investigation. By the time you do an interrogation, you must have something to put before the suspect or whoever the person is. And I'm sure this is true for all forms of investigation, whether it's corruption or anything. Even Commission of Inquiry, this television show they provide
they had already...
That is not an investigation.
No.
They have an investigation in the background.
Yeah.
When that is done, this other one is just for the television of it. It's just for a show. It's you know. So yeah, and this happens quite often. I mean, but I think also this is traditional. You know, we used to have what they call, do they call it talk through machines and talk through panels. You know, they take people to NIA, gather around, call it a multi-sectoral whatever. They beat them to speak the truth. Whatever that truth is, maybe the truth that they want to hear. So I think unless you correct that fundamental flaw, you will continue to, because if you bring, for example, if we spook Rennie very early on, if we spook him, if I go to Rennie and I said, look, there was this number of information I have, you've registered this company in Italy, you are working with Manuel Batista, you are working with this, you are working with that. I mean, by the time I come the next day, I would find him there.
No.
Yeah. But we were friends. I mean, if I didn't delete those messages, you would have seen trail of text messages. We were friends. In fact, when he invited me to his wedding, it was my editor who says, no, I don't think that's a good idea. Maybe just keep him close. He keeps you close because Rennie was also aware. He was not stupid.
Yeah.
He was aware what I was doing. I was aware what he was doing. So, but we kept both. We tolerate each other. Yeah, you know. So that's how the process should normally go, right? If you don't do that, you will have to bring people in, and this kind of process would follow.
I know you have done a lot of investigative stories. At some point, do you collaborate with the police? Are you able to rely on most information they give you? Because sometimes you're investigating something and they're also doing something. Like this story you released, we'll talk about it later. Yeah. They are also working on it, but yours came a little earlier. Is there instances where you work along with them and they give you leads, they give you information that has proven to be like helpful in your investigations?
We have tried that several times. You know, for us, there are a few institutions that are more like us, that at least in our head, we think that by establishment, the Attorney General is an advocate, is an activist.
Yeah.
By his work, you know, the AG is on our side, and by his work, we think that the police are on our side, and by their work, institutions like National Human Rights Commission or the Auditor General's Office are on our side. Those are advocates, available to the citizens to seek redress at any point they have issues, or whether it's a need for justice or whether it's corruption, theft case, or any other thing. Police is the same. I mean, we have reached out. I reach out to the AG. Sometimes things he does I like, sometimes things he does I don't like. And I make a lot of aggressive comments about AG on Facebook. But I reach out when we do stories and I say, I think your office needs to do this and that. And he will respond and say, okay, yes, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. So institutions like that need to work closely with us. Unfortunately, quite often, they don't. So for example, we have worked on tons of cases where the police more or less look at us like, you know, I think it's a orientation issue, more like people who they are enemies of the system. Oh, these guys, more like people who are not even, they are unauthorized holders of information. Okay. This doesn't belong in your hands. Yeah. What are you doing with it? More like that.
More like that, yeah.
Yeah, because I have reached out to police in a number of times, you know, whether it's special investigation unit or, you know, serious crime unit, even the AG's office, to seek for certain records, to say we are working on X, Y, and Z, and we want this and that and that. And we were hoping a collaboration, but you don't get that here.
You don't get that.
And you don't also get to have a call, police saying, hey, Mustapha, you've worked on this before. I'm working on a similar case. Do you think what have you learned from X, Y, and Z? Do you have contacts for this and that and that? Do you have friends from you outside who do online scrubbing? I want to profile this person. You know, because we have certain access they may not have access to. We worked with investigative journalists all over the place. I mean, some of them have very good technique in finding someone, a needle online. Yeah. So you can tap into that kind of thing, but they have access we don't also have. Yeah. I mean, you know, police can summon people, we can't summon people. Yeah. The only time people feel obliged to sit before us is when they know we have something. Yeah. You know? So, you know, and I am under, the kind of pressure we are under, the police are not under that pressure. So, but they don't cooperate, like they don't like to share. They see journalists as more or less people who are against the system.
They see people against the system. But Sheriff, what is the fine line between the police investigator and the journalist, the investigative journalist? At what point is there any line where the journalist should stop in law? Is there any law that says when there's an investigation, a police investigation, the journalist should not investigate? Do we have that provision in our books?
Okay, before I mention that, I think it is important we emphasize, I think it is imperative that the police investigation as well as investigative journalists to work collaboratively, because the idea is, the essence of an investigative journalist is to ensure people are accountable for their deeds or misdeeds. Yeah. And it's the same thing, the intention of a police investigator or a police officer is to ensure that whoever commits a crime is brought to book. So I don't say, I don't think there must be any anonymity or bad blood between a journalist and a police officer, as far as it has to do with ensuring people are accountable for their act. So with regards to the law, I am not aware of any law which says that if a police officer or a government entity or an institution is doing an investigation into a matter or into a crime, nor any other person or institution or entity or journalist should investigate that. I'm not aware of that law. If it exists, I would be glad someone could share it with me.
I saw something that somebody wrote. I'm going to read that to you. This person says Section 7 of the Constitution is Suleiman Bokarba. I want to bring, he says Section 7 of the Constitution of the Gambia, 1997, provides that common law and principles of equity are part of the laws of the Gambia. He says the common law definition of contempt includes where proceedings are pending or imminent, a criminal case becomes active when a person is arrested. An arrest warrant is issued or a summons is issued or a person is charged orally. All steps that mean there is a definite prospect of that person is facing trial. Yeah. So, because he was saying that journalists should back off, we should not do investigations, and he quoted this. So that's why I'm asking: is there a specific law? Because at this point we need to know. We are all at this point at risk of being detained or arrested. So that's why it's important to clarify these issues. Is there any specific law that says you cannot investigate when a police are investigating something or a crime?
Okay, good. Let me just dwell on Section 7. Section 7 of the Constitution deals with the laws of the Gambia. It is the section that provides which law is applicable in the Gambia or which law does not. So one of those laws that are applicable is principle of common law and equity. What is common law? It's a technical term. Yeah. And it is a practice, a judicial practice that existed in UK or United Kingdom, the way they were running their judicial system, and case law developed from those things. Those are things that we refer to common law. Do you understand? Equity is no place. So now, in common law, if a matter is before a court, we have what is called sub judice. That is, do not make a comment on matters before a court. Why? Because it may have potentials to influence the mind of a judge. Yeah. Right? And a judge or a jury is required to be independent. They should make an informed decision based on the facts and evidence before them. So you as a journalist running a program and you commenting on a case, and that judge or juror happen to listen to that program and you make a comment perhaps that was not within what the person is aware of, that has a potential to influence that person, either to change the mind or do what perhaps you suggest. And this is why the law says that once a matter is before the court, people should not comment on those things. Now, the issue of contempt, how contempt come into play, is doing an act that may obstruct the course of justice. Right? Now, bring it to context now. A person is identified as a witness before a court. Yeah. And you go and talk to that person. The motive of talking to the person is very important.
The motive.
Yes. Because not that you talking to the person alone, that is a contempt. Why would it be a contempt? If you go and harass that witness, you intimidate the witness, or you say something that influences the witness testimony, right? Or you prevent that person from coming to court, then you interfering with that witness. That is witness tampering with a witness. Do you understand? So to say that there is a law that really defines that one's matter is before a court, or not court rather, is being investigated, and officers should not, or a journalist should not speak to that person, I am not aware of that. And even with the message that you read, the person has not really identified the provisions of that law. What he is trying to do is to look at the implication of Section 7 sub D as to common law, whether if you stretch that would require a person, when a person is suspected of being a witness to a case, you should not speak to him. No. I think the idea or the rationale of that provisions or that law is not you to interfere with the course of justice. or ensuring the person go through the process. And a witness is a person who has seen an event, or had an event, or perceived an event, who is identified by a prosecutor or by an investigation of to be able to come to court and tell the court what he knows. Not everybody is a witness. Do you understand? You can even be in the presence of a crime scene, but yet you are not a witness.
At what point is even somebody a witness? Because the reason why I want that also to be established, for example, you know, if you say, we interviewed, you know, the alleged suspect's brother, right day after he was identified. For us as journalists, we wanted to know who this person is. This is the person people said was the suspect. We want to know who he is. We want to profile him. We want the population to know what his family know about him. You know, you want to have that knowledge. And this is common practice anywhere in the world, right? So we interviewed that person. Apparently later on, this person was detained. He's released now. But at that point, he was no witness, right? And also, Mankajang also interviewed the lady who apprehended the suspect, alleged suspect, right? But at that point, there's no charge sheet, there's no court proceedings, there's nothing. Would you consider these people a witness by the time we were interviewing them? At what point is somebody considered a witness in a court of law?
Okay, I do not want to be specific.
We don't want to be specific on cases,
these issues that are, but generally how a witness is determined. You have a dictionary definition of witness, and that's very simplistic. That is a person who has seen an event or witnessed an event. It's a witness. Like we are all witness of what is happening today. At this Now, a witness as per the law is a person who has provided a statement to an investigator, and the person is listed part of the witnesses to be testified in court. Or it could be a person who the investigations believes that he knows something about a case. Do you understand? And they would want to approach the person so that to see whether the person evidence or what he has seen or heard could support the person, could support a case to a court, right? So if you look at even our law on dealing with witness tampering, if you look at the heading, it is deal with things that would affect the administration of justice. So those provisions contemplate in a situation where the matter is before the court, because an investigation can choose Mustapha to be a witness. It gets to me as a prosecutor, police prosecutor. I may see Mustapha evidence are not supporting to the case. I can drop him.
They've used me as a witness one time.
I can decide to drop Mustapha. Or even the matter goes to Attorney General Chambers, where a prosecutor is having a file. The police would recommend Mustapha and Fatou are potential witness or are witnesses. I can go through Mustapha's statement, go through your statement. If I think the charge before the charge that I want to prefer or charge that I want to take to court, your evidence or your statement is of no value to that, then you are not witness, right? So in a bill of indictment, all the witnesses are listed in a bill of indictment. And what is bill of indictment? Is an information or a charge before a high court, where the prosecutor would mention Mustapha would be a witness, Fatou would be a witness, Sharif would be a witness. Those are the witnesses in the case. So if those witnesses are mentioned and you speak to them with the purpose to influence the person's testimony, that's a contempt. That is not allowed. Or you harass the person with a motive that he does not go to court, or you intimidate him, or you prevent him from testifying. Do you understand? Then now you are interfering with the course of justice, and you could be charged under that section, or even the court can cite you for contempt for tampering with a witness. Do you understand? But now, if the matter is before the magistrate court and the police have done the investigations and forward the file to a prosecutor, because they have a criminal investigation unit and the prosecution unit, because of the summary nature of the case before the magistrate court, you will not see the list of witnesses being mentioned or identified. But in the file, you will see all the potential witnesses that are to be called before the court to testify. So if you go and speak to them with a purpose, because the intention is very important here.
With the purpose.
Of course, the intention is very important, because if you want to go to interview a person, maybe just to provide information to the public. General public, people to get to know what you are doing. Do you understand? Then I don't think you are interfering with the cause of justice. Do you understand? But if your intention is to whether to influence the person's testimony or to prevent him from going, do you understand? Then you could be charged under the same section that is being talked about. But apart from that, I am not sure that anybody could be speaking to a person who witnessed a crime is speaking to a witness and you interfering with a witness. And imagine, sometimes even many people could witness a crime and only 2 or 3 would volunteer to be witnesses in the matter. And if that is so, and you go to speak to a person who is not willing to be a witness, would you really say that the person is tampering with a witness? Although as an investigator, rather as a prosecutor, if you refuse to be a witness, I have processes that I can come in to compel you to come and testify. Yes, that could be done. So, but then
the key word here, you're saying there should be a purpose.
Yes, the intention matters a lot
for us,
and the consequence of what you have done also. Because sometimes you may not have the intention to do things, but the result may be a problem. Like you speak to the person, and because of that, he is no more willing to be a witness when he was actually willing to be a witness. Do you understand? That is problematic. But although now the problem here is, which is not black and white, you understand? At what point really do we have to consider that person a witness to the case or not? Because the law under which a person could be charged contemplate a situation where the matter is before the court, where someone has been charged and before the court. Yes, but this is an interpretation of my own. Someone can have a different interpretation. And this is why we have lawyers. Sometimes it's not black and white. It depends what you can put in the court and prove.
And prove it. Mustapha, you know, I know you have done this a couple of times, police, you know, working in para-police, investigating, and you're talking to the same people. You know, you are questioning the same people. He says, is the motive here is what matters. Why are you doing this and how you're doing it? Now, at what point do you sit and say, do you consider that to say, I have to back off? You know, the police are investigating, you know, this might look like tampering. Does that come along your job? Is that something? I know, you know, even this case, you know, you were at some point looking at possibility of maybe I should look at it or not, right? Do you consider those things? At what point do you think you want to back off? Or is that a no for you? Do you just...
No, me, I have only one boss. And that's at Malagan.
That's
so, I don't, police, IGP is not my boss. He doesn't tell me to back up. Once we decide that this story is legitimate public interest issue, and we need to look into it, we commence. And that's it. So, you know, in the last story we've done, Penny Appeal. Roy Webster.
The Roy Webster,
the rape one.
Yeah, the rape is,
When we were doing it, the policeman was also investigating. In fact, we were not just investigating Roy, we were also investigating the police.
The police,
for allegedly trying to attempt to
bury the case,
So often, sometimes that is also another scenario, because journalists have a much broader mandate than the police. The police, they investigate crime. We investigate both crime and the police. Because police investigate crime and try to fight crime. But in the course of police, they are also executing an official duty in which the public has an interest. And journalists are the police of the public, the immediate police of the public.
That's what I keep saying. Who is policing the police? And journalists have some part to play in that.
We are the immediate police of the public. I mean, you know, if people want information, they reach out to the journalist for information. And they want credible information. Now, even the simplest form of journalism requires investigations, because as you try to confirm whether this story is true or not true, you are trying to verify something.
Yeah.
So the police should do their job independent as they should, with utmost responsibility and professionalism, and allow journalists to also do their job with utmost professionalism without interference, so that when we are all in the field, what we are interviewing are sources.
Yeah.
They interview sources, we interview sources. And when they decide that the sources we have are sources that are valuable to them in their case, they can simply reach out and say, well, Mr. Darboe, I'm aware you are investigating this case. And it turns out this particular source is very critical witness in my case. And once his information is out, because you have incidents like that where police, critical witnesses in police case are exposed, and the cartels or criminal organizations that are working to bury their case, they kill them. That's why they would have witness protection.
Yeah.
But we've not got to that level yet. But what I'm trying to say is that journalists and police can always, at any time, work together, so long as the police are not corrupt. Yeah. So long as the police are not corrupt, the journalists and police can always work together. For example, in this last case, we have offered to work with the police, 2 police officers who were working on the Roy Webster case. Even though they were telling me no rape occurred, we knew that was not true based on best available evidence. That is not true. Testimonies exist that indicts the person involved, the white man. And you know, people have put him in places where that makes him a likely suspect of the allegations that the 2 girls have leveled against the white man. And the doctor have made an examinations to say there is a likelihood that rape might have occurred, right? So if you have all those things and you have allegation, 2 children saying this guy, we've been going to his place and he raped me, and he didn't even deny the 2 girls were at his house. And this is also someone with history of abuse, right? Who is already convicted in court. And then you have dozens of, almost about half a dozen people, or about a dozen people, all pointing finger at the same person. And you have a police officer saying, no crime occurred. Yeah. So you have that kind of systems happening. In a case like that, if the guy could just have come to me and arrest me and say, Mustapha, you know, you're interfering with my witnesses. I was interfering with his witnesses, I mean, supposedly.
Yeah.
Because if the case goes to court, ultimately, the people he is going to interview, bring as witness in the trial, are the people I was also talking to, to establish my case, right? But he was wrong, I was right. Had he arrested me for interfering with his witness, this story would have been buried. The case would have been buried. Nobody would have known anything. And the same goes for the Penny Appeal case. It was an abuse case. I'm picking up abuse cases, just abuse cases. The same thing. Police did an investigation, and the state came to say there was no case. And we investigated and proved there was indeed a case. They brought it back to court. Had the police just arrested us and say, well, you interfering with, you know, in fact, we just took, this case was out of court, you interfering with witnesses, we could just come back and investigate it.
The case would have been...
This is so fluid, they can use it at any point. In fact, even if a case implicating a top-level executive member you are investigating, he could just use the police to come and say, this is an active investigation. Wherever you are, even your house is an active crime scene. You know, I mean, it's so fluid. You can't.
But are you worried though? Because the reason why I asked that is, this is your daily routine. This is what you do: investigating people, investigating crimes, investigating incidents, and we have seen instances where the police bring you up as as a witness because of the work you have done. If they have not gotten you do that job, they would not have even won that case because you are the one they use. They use your
the
stories.
case was almost collapsing.
It was almost collapsing. And when you came and testified and brought the evidence, that got the case, the state to win that case. And these two other incidents that you have quoted. But had the police arrested you and said, "Oh, you were tampering with a witness," they would not have been successful in those instances.
Absolutely.
But at this point, what the trend we have seen, for example, a journalist being arrested for interviewing, and they label it as something as tampering with a witness. Now, if that trend continues and it goes to court and it's proven to be a crime, how does that affect your job?
However way it's manipulated. I said this on Facebook after Manka Jang was arrested, that this is a big threat to investigative journalism.
It is.
Because journalists just don't investigate corruption. They also investigate crime. And what happened was a legitimate public interest issue. People were asking questions. We answer questions from people. We work for the same people the police work for, right? And people were asking questions. For the first time in the history of this country, somebody just killed two paramilitary officers, and leaving one fighting for her life. For the first time. It's never happened here. Like we've had police brutality, this, that, and that, but somebody going to a checkpoint, put a bullet in two paramilitary officers, that's never happened here. Like that, unprovoked. And so the people started asking questions. Something unprecedented just happened. And the people wanted to know, how did we get here? So journalists were all asking questions. And so a witness all of a sudden, somebody with knowledge, intimate knowledge of the suspect, just showed up in Jululung. I mean, in investigations, one thing leads to another. Crime is a story. I conceive murder in my house. I probably talk to my sister about it. Then I go find a murder weapon. Maybe I don't even have it. I may have borrowed it from a brother. I take it in my house. Probably my friend saw it. And maybe even asked me, "What are you doing with this?" And maybe I gave him an excuse. I'm going to do some beds behind for gardens. Crime is a story. If you are at a murder scene, it's clues that you look for. That leads you ultimately to a suspect. So if you said you find a suspect, everybody is asking a question now. How did they find a suspect? And a suspect that is far off away from your crime scene. For example, is it ballistic that leads you to your suspect? Did you find a murder weapon? Did you find his fingerprints all over the crime scene? Did you find did you find a CCTV that identified him? Did you find eyewitnesses who described him? Because now we have sketch artists. Even in the Gambia, I think we should have sketch artists. You have a lone survivor. Did the lone survivor see the perpetrator? Did you try to identify the perpetrator, bringing sketch artists to draw the best available picture of the individual and use that to trace the individual? Did you find CCTV? I mean, CCTV, based on some crime scenes, there are not, in the Gambia, there are far fewer CCTVs. Even in this particular place, if we bring this crime as a context, in this particular place, there was a CCTV, but it's very far off. And it points to the road leading to Sukuta. It's a dark place. You can't see clearly anybody who is going to run from traffic lights, running that path to Sukuta. You can't see the person if you know the distance. Now, so people started asking questions. And so for the police, their activity is divorced from us. Now, for us, we are just trying to answer the questions. And us answering the questions do not affect their case. If you get your crime scene, you've protected the integrity of your evidences, which we don't touch anyway. No journalist was there to pick up the cell casing or to go and say, I want footages from the CCTV or to you know, of course, journalists were there to interview suspects, you know, eyewitnesses, and try to see whether the kind of descriptions they have give match the gentleman who was in custody and all of that. Even though none of those information is out yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, even though journalists were still working on some of the stories that they're working on. But the interesting thing is that you have a suspect. And once you have a suspect, people want to know, how did you ID the suspect? So once you put out information, that then everybody becomes intrigued. And now people are asking more questions.
Yeah.
And journalists, you put journalists literally in trouble too, because journalists are the ones to provide answers to those
To the public, yeah.
So from the crime scene, journalists now consider that the second most important place to be, aside from the traffic lights, is Jululu.
Yeah.
So journalists started going to Jululu.
But do you think the police are also being guarded? Because, you know, public perception also brings a lot of distractions. You know, for example, in this particular instance, when the government spokesperson spoke and it came out, some of those informations with what the national security advisor said, and later on the police rectifying, people started having doubts, right? And people started saying, oh no, really, is this the right person? You know, those doubts were created.
That put journalists in trouble.
That put us in trouble, because the reason is, when this happened, when we interviewed the brother, a lot of things, because the time we were interviewing the brother, that was the time the government spokesperson was talking. And I had some things that were said, and I sent text to Buba, can you ask these questions? Can you ask this? Because I just want clarification. We were interviewing that at that moment when the government spokesperson was speaking. So I wanted them to put that to the brother. And when those things started coming up, people started saying, oh, really, really? Then people started, but that's the perception there. They have already put this out. Some of that interview clarified a lot of the things that was said on that interview. And then subsequently, people were interviewing the person that relieved him, the lady's audio, people started listening to it critically, speaking to his friends and other people. So at some point, the public perception looked like it was against the police. And the police needed everybody's cooperation. Maybe they need us, the journalists, to back off at this point so they can concentrate. Do you think that might also be something that really triggered this arrest? Because everyone was rushing, trying to get information. And they were getting distracted with all the other information that we were bringing.
The problem was created by the government.
Okay.
You see, when this incident happened, the first mistake government did was to politicize it.
Oh, okay.
You see, even the statement of the president, I mean, the statement that I saw attributed to him, I don't know whether
yes.
He said this was an attack on the government and it was an attempt to intimidate the security services. That's what I saw.
Yes,
That's
the president said.
a terrible speech in the face of a tragedy of this nature. It's a terrible speech. For a leader, when an incident like this happened, the first thing is to rally the country around this and isolate the criminal. And so you would find speeches like, this is an attack on our republic. This is an attack on our democracy.
Democracy, yes.
This is an attack on our country. This is an attack on our people.
Our law enforcement, yeah.
So you isolate the criminal and unify the country on one side. You don't say, because when you say to intimidate my government, my government, it's partitioned in nature, you see. And so this was followed by a lot of sentiments they killed, because it happened in the wakes of the UDP,
Chairman
UDP, in fact it was Brikama
Chairman, yeah.
Yakuba case. It happened in the wake of that. So people went online to say, well, this was a hit, it was a UDP thing, it was a, data. So from the beginning, the police were put under huge partition pressure, huge partition pressure, right? Like me, I don't work under pressure. and none of us do. Deadlines are deadlines, but investigations, when they do have a deadline, when investigations deadline is end of evidence. Once you have end of evidence, even probably you may not even have the best evidence, because you sometimes, for us, we would say there is this thing we call it a minimum story and a maximum story. So a minimum crime and a maximum crime. Minimum evidence, maximum evidence. So whether you have all the evidences, but you must have basic evidence, right? Now, when this situation happened, when that politicization began, I mean, from the speech of the leader, political leadership, to the political supporters online, the police went under pressure. And I think what they did, based on my own assessment, this may not be true, this is my opinion, is that they went on a political validation scheme. They went to validate the political class. They were not, because I was imagining the kind of mistake that Sankare had made that was eventually attributed to police. Some of us already knew it comes from the police.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because after the police press conference, you know, they repeated everything Sankare said except two things.
Yeah.
Which is a security of Brikama Area Council. That they didn't repeat.
Yeah.
And also they did repeat some few things. I have to.
That he was at the protest.
Yes. No, he said he was at protest. Even at that press conference.
Oh, okay. Okay.
They said he said he was at that protest.
Oh, okay.
And he said he was having a gun.
Okay.
Now, come to think of it, police, somebody comes, is a suspect, tells you I was at a crime scene, I was at a protest, I was carrying a gun, and then another question emerged, how did you find him in the protest? Because you have a picture of him. How did you find him in the protest? Was it himself who identified himself? Or was it someone who suggested to him the picture? And then, so those questions were popping up everywhere. So journalists were put in trouble. And so the police released that information and called it preliminary.
Yeah.
It's completely 101 unverified information. That is no preliminary. Preliminary information is what we call a first draft.
Yeah.
Is when I sent my editor a story and I call it a first draft and I kept adjusting it.
Yeah.
That's preliminary. Yeah? Because when a first draft is drafted, I'm not sure how they do it there, but in our world, when a first draft is drafted, it's sent to the editor. Then the editor looks at it and do basic due diligence. In big newsrooms, they don't send it to the editor. They send it to a copy editor, and they brush it aside. Then they send it to editor. Then they send it to a fact-checking team, a team of fact-checkers. Fact-checkers are it's like a football team and its opponent. So fact-checkers are not part of the newsroom per se.
Yeah.
They are the ones trying to see if you are right. So you have to prove your story to them, like you would prove it to a court.
Yeah.
That's newsrooms now have that. Investigative journalists, you now have that. Even us, we have a fact-checking team. So, for example, we call it reviews. When our story is done, we have a bunch of folks. Some are lawyers, some are activists, some are. It depends on case-by-case basis. Sometimes you are working on a procurement-related story, so you just have to call some procurement folks and some people who are familiar with that area to look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then they give you feedback. Sometimes they will say, well, we think your evidence is right. Because you have to hyperlink, provide both a Google folder and a Google Doc. So that evidence are in Google folder and the text is in Google Doc. And so you link it. So that the fact checkers would go through and say, we think that is first draft. That's preliminary.
Yeah.
But somebody tells you, I was in the crowd, yeah, my picture is that, I was there, I was with a gun, the picture is there. You can't call somebody a Brikama and I can say, who is this guy?
Unverified.
Verified, basic. You do that as an intern, even in the newsroom, you will be fired.
Yeah.
I don't see how, so I think the only reason, explainable reason why that would go out of the police is because of partisan pressure. They were under pressure to find a shooter, and they had to find one. And I mean, I'm not saying they don't have the shooter. That's not what I'm insinuating. What I'm saying is, I mean, the desperate first steps to make that blunder. And when they made that blunder now, the police now came under another partisan pressure, which is now two political groups, two most powerful political groups now, ping pong. And police is in the middle.
Yep.
And they are in the middle of an investigation. And they had to ask the right questions and find the right people. So this was a disaster from the beginning. And that's what happened. So all these other things, arresting of party, arresting of this, arresting of somebody, this was just police trying to, like Mankajang. Mankajang didn't do anything. Mankajang just went to interview someone, and because someone whose credibility the police themselves put on the line because of partisanship.
But it's not even published, and that was not even...
Yeah, it was not published, but he was there.
Yeah.
And so, probably not just Mankajang. I mean, Mankajang was there, but a lot of people were dundung in his ear. So he was probably on a mission for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And so police say, probably, why is he in Jurulo? I mean, so they wanted to probably know. I mean, and sort of prepare for what is to come. But I mean, this was a disaster from the beginning, and I think it would be a learning point, so that we know police don't work. Police belong to the people, the Gambian people.
Yeah.
Police is not NPP institution or UDP or APRC. Police is national police.
Yeah.
Yeah. So police is on no one side.
Should be on the people's side.
It should be on the people's side. So when you are having a case like this, just let the police do their job. Give them the resources needed for them to do. I know a politician is also under pressure, because, for example, you are under pressure anywhere in the world. Politicians are under pressure to deliver criminals. You can take credit for the hit happened and the police find the shooter. If the hit happened, police didn't find the shooter, politicians, oppositions would say, the police are inefficient because they are under-resourced. So I can understand the pressure. Yeah. But when you make a partisan language and insinuate that this is a hit on, that is a bad.
So, as a criminal defense lawyer, right? How an incident where something happens and there are conflicting information coming in from both angles, and even before you go to court, it's proven that some of the information that have been given are proven to be not right. How does that affect your case in any court of law?
It does not affect my case as a defense counsel. It makes my case.
It makes your case easy for you, right?
Yes. It makes the case very easy, because as a defense counsel, your objective is to really ensure that justice is done.
Yeah.
Your client, if he is guilty, and there is evidence to support that, you can't do anything about that.
Yeah.
But if there are conflicting facts and stories, you as a defense lawyer, your objective is to ensure to create better doubts to the courts, because any doubts in criminal case is resolved in favor of the defense, in favor of the defense or in favor of the accused person. So, and a criminal case must be proven beyond all reasonable doubt, and that's a very high threshold. So if the public are really in doubt as to really whether it's the accused person that committed the offense or not, if you are really a good defense counsel, you should be able to create even more doubt to the mind of the judge that really this is not the right person before the court. So if you are able to achieve that, then your client walks out from the court with a big smile, and then you go home and rejoice.
And get a good paycheck.
Yes, exactly. Have a good paycheck. Yes, so we all take pride sometimes. We enjoy having victory, although sometimes that is not the overriding objective. As defense counsel or as a prosecutor, your primary obligation is to ensure that justice is served. And justice being served sometimes can go against you, sometimes can go in your favor. Right, but then nobody wants to lose a case.
Nobody wants
anyway.
to lose a case.
Yes, so those are the principle guiding us. So when there are facts, conflicting facts before you go to court, as a defense lawyer, you are excited about that, because that shows that if you put your house in order, you can easily help your client to walk away.
Yeah. Now, one thing I also want to bring is this 72-hour rule of detention. I see Madi Jobate, my favorite activist, crying all the time about police. He calls it an abuse. He said police abuse that, because what we have seen is when they call you for questioning or you are arrested, they keep you. Maybe they just call you now and question you for 1 hour or so, and they say, we're keeping you here. They don't even question you until the third day. They come there and they say, sometimes I'll come to that. They don't bail you. They don't charge you, but bail you. Is that possible? Is that the law? But also, even the 72, when does that start? How are weekends included when people are arrested? Because I remember this specific case, the Sabali Sirifosonko case, when they were arrested. The 72 hours for me started Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So Monday around the same time, I said, 72 hours now. And some were arguing in the comment section, no, weekends are not included. And some said, no, it's included. So I don't know which one is which. Tell us exactly, when does the 72 hours start and when does it clock out, and are weekends included? Okay.
With these 72 hours, it's problematic for many. Yes, because even investigators, I've had opportunities or occasions where I go to the police stations, and a police officer would speak from the blue and tell me, look, we have right to keep this person within 72 hours.
Yeah.
To me, that is very myopic way of, or very restrictive way of looking at the provision. What the section is saying, that if a person is arrested and for any reason he cannot be brought to court within 72 hours, then he is entitled to be released.
Yeah.
And that is one, irrespective of the offense, irrespective of the individual. I've heard people saying that if you are charged with treason, right? Treason under our criminal procedure, if the matter gets to court, is unbailable.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because it may attract life imprisonment. Right? So if you are arrested and for any reason you are not able to be released within 72 hours, the police or the person or the authority or the institution having your custody would insist that because of the offense you are charged is unbailable, they cannot bail you. Do you understand? That is very wrong. What the Constitution provides, which is the supreme law of the land, that if you are arrested within 72 hours, you should be taken to court. For any reason, if that is not possible, then you should be released.
Even if it's a treason.
Even if it is treason.
But as long as you are not charged.
As long as you are not charged, even if you are charged,
yeah,
but you cannot be brought to court within 72 hours.
You should be.
Then you are entitled to be placed on bail.
Wow.
Do you understand? So here, when it starts, that's the question.
That's the question.
Right.
Even this you have said, I mean, it just brings to how many times people's rights have been violated here.
Certainly, yes.
And there's countless times where people have been brought into detention and they have not been charged with any offense. They stay more than 14 days, and they are not taken to court, and they're still kept, and they say we're investigating.
That's a violation of the person's right.
Wow.
to liberty and freedom, right? So when those start, the Constitution also has not specified with time it starts. But our understanding of law is that if someone is arrested or if an event happened on a particular day, that day is usually excluded if you are counted.
Okay.
Right? If an offense happened today is usually not counted. The time begins to roll the next day.
Okay.
You start counting, and you count up to 72 hours. Now, if the 72 hours falls on a weekend, right, like a Sunday or a Saturday, where the court does not sit, obviously the person cannot do anything, cannot bring you to court. And this is why the law says, if that happened, the next working day, the person should be brought to court. So where violation would happen if the 72 hours falls on a Saturday, on a Sunday, and Monday they refuse to bring you to court and keep you in detention, then they're violating your right. Right? But if it falls on a Sunday or a Saturday, and on Monday you are brought to court, then that is acceptable in law.
Okay.
Right? Yes. But the problem here is that people do what they feel like doing.
Yeah.
And Gambia, we have many, I will call it, sorry for the language, very virgin areas of the law that are not exploited, that are not tested in court.
Yeah.
And the court has not made pronouncement on them.
them.
So now it depends on individual understanding of the law or interpretation of the law. In certain jurisdictions, every provision of the law is tested, and people know what is the stand of the court on that area. So here, majority of our constitutional provisions have not been tested in court to know actually whether what the person has done is right or wrong.
But the one thing you said, for example, if somebody is arrested and the third day falls on a Sunday, so you know there's no court sitting, obviously it drags to the next day. But in the event that person is not charged, they tell you bring your lawyer. They don't even tell you bring your lawyer. In the Nari ID card and your travel document or whatever, we are bailing you.
Bail presupposes that you are under charge.
Under charge.
If you are not charged, you don't go talk about bail.
But
this is why, as a defense counsel, I've had a situation where that happened. If my client is arrested and he has spent almost 72 hours with the police or any other authority, and as far as I know, he has not been charged, when I go to court, I do not ask the court to grant him bail. What I ask the court to conditionally or unconditionally release the person. And that is different from asking the person to be bailed.
Yeah.
Do you understand? But if the person is under a charge, then you can talk about bail. But if he is entitled to unconditionally be released. So if for any other reason the court thinks, okay, I may not release him, or I will put condition to him to ensure that if he has committed an offense, the police look into the matter. When he is needed to the police, he should go. That's where sometimes as a strategic litigator, you ask for the court to either release him conditionally or unconditionally. Right.
But in the instance where you are not taken to court, because it's the police who will take you to court, right?
Yeah.
They don't take you to court. They say, ID card fulanati, we are releasing you. And then you just comply to that. They tell you every single day, come in and sign. What are you signing? You have not been charged. But if you don't do that, also you just stay in that police detention. Now you have to make that determination whether to just accept what they're giving you so you can go home, or you just stay there without any release. Is that...
yes, that could be frustrating sometimes. And this is why perhaps because of our society, the economic is not very, people are not having money. But if not, you hire the service of a lawyer, the lawyer to sue the institution involved.
But I've seen instances where lawyers even will tell you, you know, you can have a bail deal and they are not charged.
Yes,
so many instances.
Yes, because sometimes too, you know, we do not want to burden people unnecessarily.
Yeah.
Right? I can tell you, okay, do not accept to be bailed because you are not charged. You need to be released, right? Sometimes you need to look into the interests of your client, right? You insist on certain things, your client would bear the brunt, would face the consequence.
Yeah.
Because if the police want to give you bail, yet you are not charged, and you tell the police, look, no, he is not going to be on bail, you have to release him on, and they refuse, your client would continue to languish under detention. So because of that, you can accommodate what they are doing. But after you've been released, you can engage with your lawyer and say, look, I don't think even my arrest was lawful because I've been arrested for 72 hours, yet I've not been charged or been informed of the offense I committed. But also, mind you, the police can arrest you based on suspicions and interrogate you and investigate you. If they do not find anything incriminating, then they could let you know. And this is why it is important we go back to where Mustapha started.
Yeah.
That you do not effect an arrest unless you have facts and evidence pointing to a crime. So that within that period, once you bring the person in, you are just cross-checking, confronting the person with those facts, and to ensure you have the necessary evidence to push the case to court. And sometimes the police officers will tell you that that is difficult, it's practically impossible to bring a person within 72 hours court. Then why must you arrest?
It's possible.
You know, do your investigation. You can investigate someone, right, without arresting the person. Do your investigate. If you know now, okay, you have what really you want, then you can effect an arrest and put the person on charge.
I think
compile your evidence and go to court within 72 hours. And even somewhere questionable, but if the draft constitution had succeeded, we would have had 24 hours or 48 hours instead of the 72 hours.
Yeah.
Yes, and they will complain. No, but the idea is do your work before effecting an arrest, because you're taking someone's fundamental right from the person. So you must do that, having the necessary facts and evidence to present to the person. Right. Yeah. So, but here, unfortunately, what we do, we arrest, start investigations. And if it is money laundering or corruption, obviously we all know it is practically sometimes impossible you to investigate properly a case of corruption within 72 hours and secure a conviction. And convictions rest on proper investigation. No matter how strong a case is, if the investigation is poor, you will not have the necessary evidence to go to court to secure a conviction.
I can tell you tons of cases.
Yes, the strong and weakness of a case is built by the investigators. And that is required that they do their work. But that makes life easy for a prosecutor. But if
even AG's office, you know, you will have lawyers complain to you sometimes about some, you know, inefficient work from the police department.
That makes it difficult for them to build a case.
One time I made a complaint to the AG and I said that, you know, it's not fair to a lawyer to put on his record a failed case when in fact the person who did a bad job leading to that failure is the investigator. And sometimes I was suggesting that prosecutors need to be onto police investigations, so that you assign a case to an individual at the time the police are investigating, so that he tells them everything. These are the boxes that needs to be ticked. The lawyer is right there. These are the boxes we need to tick. I am the one assigned to this case from right now. And I'm talking to you as you are investigating. So these are the boxes you need to tick. You know, you can't bring a collapse case literally to me to take it to court.
And that has always been, sorry for interjecting, that has always been my position, that the office of the IGP, as far as prosecution is concerned, must be under the office of the DPP. Right? The DPP should be able to call the IGP or direct the IGP to do an investigation and point to them what facts or evidence they need to go to court. If that does not happen, what we need to have an act for the establishment of the office of the DPP, where the DPP would be given a prosecutorial powers as well as investigative power. And the DPP would have both lawyers and police officers under his department who would do their investigation.
But in fact, in the American way, the police department, the FBI is under the Attorney General. So we could put the police department under the Attorney General's office. And interior, God knows, they can handle whatever they do best. But we could put the police department, because police department is a law enforcement institution, which has works that are often related to the Attorney General's chambers. But the point, I mean, the point, that's why I said Attorney General should be an activist. Because Attorney General is the one people go to fix their, to enjoy their rights, you know. I mean, he's the guy to do that, you know. But for me, I think in practice, we don't have a problem with our laws. In practice, what we have is politicization of police job. In all the arrests you are talking about, there were political interference. When you go, they tell them this is called from above. Didn't they say it? Mahdi's arrest, what was it? Wasn't it that? All these people, it was not a police decision. It was some guy who feel he has powers he just calls the police, get this guy arrested.
But is that
Usually
isn't that the major problem here?
Yeah, but
police
then
acting
that
on
is
those
not
kind of powers.
Yes, but then that is not law.
The thing is, we should be. This brings to the conversation as, what kind of institutions do we have?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'll give you a few examples. When we were doing in the lead up to the presidential elections, we were going to do investigations into the presidential candidates, just modest one that will look into their lifestyles, their tax payments, and all of that.
Yeah.
And we started doing a story on tax records. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you have a business, we will find out how much tax it pays compared to how much you should have paid.
Yeah.
And if you are an individual and you are all that you are is pay as you earn, which is government employee payment system, will look into how much your pay as you earn is within the last 5 years. And when we are doing it, I was keen on the president first. I mean, for me, president is the big guy.
Yeah.
I mean, even though we know president doesn't pay tax, but he has a business.
Yeah.
So for me, I just worked on Majum. You know, I said, look, let's do Majum. You know, we do Majum, find out how much tax is paid, find out the president's business, whether it was under a trusteeship or not, as it was in the law.
Yeah.
And all those were not there, you know. And the tax he paid, you know, was far fewer than most people. It was more like a Trump scenario.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I sent it to the editor. And so, because this was in the lead up to the election, and so when the story was reviewed, so Sekou told me that I think the ideal thing for us to do should be to do the same for all the candidates, so that it does not
Look like
malinformation.
Yeah.
So that it does not become you putting out an information that disadvantages just one candidate, because the president was a candidate.
Yeah.
And so I had to go back to other candidates and find out which businesses they own, including SRPAL and others. We published it, by the way, eventually. Before the presidential election, we published the stories on taxes the presidential candidates paid. So we went into all the others, their tax records, Usainu and Fal, Esa, and Ablai Jame and others, and we compiled it. Now, this investigation, you move every diligent, whether it's quality controller, or whether it's an editor, or whether it's the supervisor, the one supervising the lead investigator.
Yeah.
You move a mountain not to politicize your work.
Yeah.
Or to bring in any attempt that could give an excuse to anybody to say, this thing lacks integrity. That could affect the integrity of the work. Yeah? Now, the arrest you are talking about of Sabari and Sirifo was bad judgment.
Okay.
Very poor judgment.
Yeah.
You know why? Because for two reasons. One, it politicized everything that was happening at a time when police's most primary tool was relying on public goodwill.
Yeah.
In fact, they said it. If you see anything wrong,
Let
you
us
have
know.
any information. And for all we know, while this shooting was happening, and I'd still been asking people, there could have been someone who recorded it on a phone now.
Yeah.
People do that all the time.
Yes.
If
Gambians
that
like
was,
to.
if you politicized it, and that is where that video where with the UDP person,
You
and
will
you are
never-
saying it's UDP calling the hit, you think you'll have the video?
You'll never get it.
You wouldn't have the
Yeah.
video. Now that's the first big blunder. You politicize it at a time when you isolate half of the well, not half of the country, but
A section. A lot
section,
of, you know,
a section
a
of
large
the
majority
population
of the
at a
population.
time when your asset is to rely on public goodwill for information. That's one. And the second biggest blunder is to also put yourself under a petition pressure. And you see, UDP also hold a press conference
Yeah.
to say we are a responsible party, we won't do this. And this also galvanized the UDP sentiment against the police.
Yeah.
You see, just as it galvanized the other side for the police. So either way, it's a lose-lose situation. And now the other aspect was you have also now attempt to make this look like people now say, because when this hit happened, the first thing that comes to my mind was, if I were to look into this, I would start with the personal work file of Pate and Sam, or Pate, Sam, and the lady, because they may have had cross path with someone who just want to revenge.
Yeah.
And probably may have been, I mean, he could have come for one person.
Yeah.
If I come for you,
and if I'm with you and you become victim, yeah.
You become unintended casualty. There are murder cases where some people who are there are just at the wrong place.
Yeah.
For example, if two of you are sitting, I shoot you, but you are having an AK on your chest. If I run, you're going to get me with an AK.
Yeah.
So I'm not shooting you and leaving him.
Yeah.
I'm taking you both. Yeah. And I don't want to kill him.
Yeah.
I kill him to survive.
Yeah.
Right? Now, those are cases. There are cases that happened.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, okay, I'm going to go into his personal record. And I was fearing, because this guy, from the testimonies that we've had, this guy just comes, put a bullet in 3 people, and didn't shoot anybody else. And for all the testimonies we've had, it's the folks who said he shot in the air, because there were people who were trying to arrest him, were trying to approach him. So some said, whether this is wrong or right, some said he shot in the air, which means he has a bullet left in the revolver or whatever gun he had used, pistol he has used, because the police said it's a pistol, but they don't know which one, as at the last briefing. That means this is a targeted hit, because he saw, in fact, he didn't kill the person who threatened him most, which is the person who is trying to arrest him. So he didn't come for the citizens, he came for the police officers. Right?
What triggered that?
Yes. So I was thinking, maybe I'm going to look into their personal record. Perhaps they may have had a history with someone who is angry with either one of them or 2 of them or 3 of them. Right? Now, and I was thinking, if that is not the case, if this is just a hate crime of some sort, which is he is angry with anybody wearing the police uniform, then we are not done with this.
Yeah.
This guy just left with a gun, and he could just go to another checkpoint and put a bullet in a lot more people. He could go to any police station and shoot them. He could. So that was, for the police to, in the midst of that popping up in my head, be busy with a politician, I was asking why.
Why?
What the F is going on? What is this?
Yeah.
So that was very, very poor judgment. But like I said, that is why, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, the police needs to be under the AG's office, so that even investigations are controlled by the AG. Yeah? Because the AG is the one in charge of execution of justice in this country. So that the president is not also under political pressure to deliver a criminal. You know, because, I mean, you know, crimes do happen even in more advanced countries, unsolved murders. They are all over the place. So you must not put yourself under undue pressure to a point that you commit poor judgment.
Yeah.
And when you do that, it has a lasting impact on the integrity of the police, but also on your investigation. So now, all these loopholes that have surfaced and all the questions that are popping up, I mean, lawyers are investigators too, because every investigation goes through a legal process.
Yeah.
You can't establish a crime without establishing which law you broke. So once someone knows the law, he knows how to establish a crime.
Yeah.
So if you bring a case before the court with all the questions popping up, and crime needs to, evidence, we say evidence speaks, is a language.
Yeah.
Because when somebody, like if I got to a crime scene and I've seen tables thrown away, I've seen a blood, I've seen someone lying on the floor, I've seen a blood trail, you know, leading somewhere, someone's footpath, a blood trail. I must have said, somebody might have committed a crime here, murdered this person, and probably walk away. Maybe he's also wounded. Evidence speaks to you once you get it. So if evidence is presented before the court, the judge is not
Yeah.
The judge lists, the judge watches that
Evidence right there.
Yes, right there. As it speaks to each other.
Yeah.
You know, it has to connect. The dots have to connect.
Yeah.
Because crime is a story.
It's a story.
Yeah. So if the judge doesn't see that language within whatever you present, you're wasting your time.
You're wasting your time.
So you don't have to hastily arrest. You don't have to put yourself under such pressure. All that the police force needs is integrity and trust of the citizens, and it can get that if it's not politicized.
It's not politicized. And before we continue, because there's one thing I want us to also look at is what we have seen recently is defying court orders. It's very important. I'm so scared, you know, especially regarding that. I think we'll look at that. But I want to make this clarification. I just got a text from my brothers, Suleiman Bokarba. I think somebody texted him to say we were discussing his comment. The reason I brought that comment is because, you know, I asked him, is there any fine law that says journalists should not investigate? And I saw something he had posted on Facebook, which shows like a section of that. I'm not a lawyer, so I wanted to, as my defense to him, I wanted to put that to this lawyer to say, but this section of the Constitution says this, so he can explain that. So that was the reason. We were not talking specifically about your comment. Now we were talking about this, but you know, we make exceptions. You know, he wants to defend his position on that. I will call you later on at the end of the show so you can clarify that. Okay, Suleiman? That's my brother. I choose a few people that I look at on Facebook so I can make reference to their comments. And you are one of those people. So no offense. It's not about, you know, bringing something negative towards you. Now, if you're also joining us, please send us stars. If you do, you're supporting this network. That way you're able to empower us to be able to do programs like this and more programs, you know, and support. That way you're supporting the network. Now, Sheriff, let's look at this thing that I see now happening, you know, court orders. For example, the Pablo case. And I want to say this. I saw somebody making comments to say, Kerr Fatou, you keep writing about this story, about this drug case. This is drug case. Why are you helping drug people that are involved in drugs? So it's not about helping people are allegedly in drug cases. It is about a court saying this. I don't care what you do or what you did not do. If the court says, I am bailing Fatou Toure, that is the court. That is not for me or you to say, but he did this crime, he should not bail. That is the court's ruling. And I think in any civilized society, anywhere in the world, we don't always agree with rulings. We don't agree with what the judges say. This afternoon coming here, I was telling a friend of mine, I will never vote Republican in the US because, you know, they always look at their agenda and look at what the Supreme Court did with the you know, women's rights issues and all the stuff. That's why I will never vote Republican. And then he said, but sometimes they have, I'm like, no, because if it goes to the Supreme Court, this is what they do. But you don't have choices. You don't have, when they make those rulings, there's nothing else you can do. It's a ruling, right? That's what the court says. You abide by it. Presidents will talk about them. They will call them out. They will say stuff. But they don't defy those orders because this is a court order. Now, what we have seen, for example, in two instances I have seen, the Pablo case, the Bundu Magistrate Court, first, they was in detention for days without being presented in the court. And when they went to the Bundu Magistrate Court, the lawyers, I think, flagged some jurisdiction issues, and they were bailed. But they were not released. They were taken into detention. And then again, they were taken to the Kanifing Magistrate Court. They applied for a bail. The magistrate, in fact, in his ruling, cited some, you know, violations to their constitutional rights and granted them bail. And they were arrested again and detained. So in that instance, is that not defying court orders? If the court says, I'm bailing somebody, even if you don't agree with the court says, you can still go and appeal and stuff. But at that instant, how do you lawyers deal with stuff like that? And I've seen that in that case and other cases somewhere else I have seen it. How do you deal with cases like that? Is that something that should be allowed in a civilized society like ours?
Okay, I will not zero this to a particular case.
Please, I don't want to
yes,
also. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I always try to avoid it. I will speak in general.
Yes.
So in general now, this is where your brother, I think Suleimani, right?
Yes.
Suleimani is who come into play here.
Yes, yes.
Right? On the common law, it is that once a court makes a decision, that decision is should be enforced, and the decision, if it is issued against a person, he must comply with that decision. So a decision of a court is as good as a law enacted by the National Assembly. Nobody violates a law and get away with it, right? It's the same way too, nobody should violate a particular order of a court or a judgment of a court or a decree of a court and get away with that. So on all days, by virtue of common law, that once that happened, the court that issued that judgment or that order or that decree could cite the person in defiance, contempt. And contempt could be in two ways, either contempt in the presence of the court or contempt outside. So if the court makes a decision and you disrespect or disobey the order of the court right there and then in the presence of the court can deal with you there and then.
But okay.
Yes, let me learn, then you can do your follow-up question. Cite you for contempt there and then, either to have you fined for a particular amount of money or send you to prison. Right? The court can do that. If it is outside the court, the court can even order you to be brought to court and explain to the court why it should not cite you for contempt for defying the court's order. Right? A police officer equally is empowered under our law. If someone defies a court order to arrest the person and charge him, there is a particular provision in our criminal code that the person could be charged, right? So the common law principle of defying court's order and you are cited contempt or be punished for that has now crystallized to be a statute in our laws. It is now part of our laws. Then, under the criminal code, it is provided. In any other laws, it is provided that once a court makes a judgment, that judgment must be respected. That judgment must be complied. If it is against Fatou, you need to do that. If court decide, may God forbid, that this show would never be aired online, it would never. It should never. If you do, then you have violated a court order, and you could be sent to prison for that. Right? And now, yes, people here do not respect court orders. I know one judge who would say, "You Gambians, you don't respect court orders. The court would do an order and you guys would not respect it." Do you understand? So it's very frustrating because it speaks to the integrity of the court and it speaks to the independence of the institution and it speaks to our democratic state, right? Because you cannot have a democracy without rule of law. And rule of law requires each and every party to comply with the laws. And I've mentioned earlier that a court order is as good as a law. In fact, in other jurisprudence, they will consider this as law. Yes, right? So to midwife a democracy is very difficult because sometimes it can go to your favor, sometimes against you. And as a duty bearer or as a head of state or as a head of institution or head of an organization, if that happens, sometimes complying the law would go against your ways. But you don't have an option because you choose to be democratic. You choose to respect people's rights, and that comes with lot of considerations. And that requires that you ensure that what the court decides is respected. You comply with the laws. Do you understand? Otherwise, we will have miscarriage, right? Because like if you are investigating a case, right, and you are required to inform the accused person that he needs a lawyer. And the perception is, if a lawyer comes, even if the person is willing to admit to the crime, he may not admit to the crime. Because maybe he would speak to the lawyer, and from the facts, the lawyer would tell him, I think you have a defense. Right? If you can commit a crime, but yet you have a defense, and the lawyer could tell you, look, I think you have a defense. I don't think it is a good idea you to admit to the crime. A police officer or an investigator, knowing that, would say, you spoil my case. Do you understand? But doing that, because if he informed the person, he would inform the lawyer, and that would change the status of the, and that would cost him. Why? Because he will need to do more to gather evidence to have you convicted.
Yeah.
Do you understand? If not, he could have gotten it very cheaply.
Which is what justice is about.
Which is what justice is about. It's making sure that due process is concerned. Yeah. Due process is respected, is complied with. And complied with due process is very difficult when you are on the other side. Because why? Sometimes it will run against you. But sometimes, but we choose to be a democratic state. And that requires us to observe due process and observe the law. So it is sometimes very frustrating. We go through them, particularly civil cases. Yeah. You get a judgment against the state, that judgment is never executed. You get a judgment against a powerful individual, that judgment will become very difficult for you to execute, right? Because one, for you to execute a judgment, you need the sheriff division. Yeah. And the sheriff division, if it is a person where likely conflict would happen or something, they would require police presence. The Inspector General of Police would have to provide police escort. And the Inspector General of Police is under the executive. So if they are not keen about ensuring that that judgment is respected, then you have a paper judgment, a judgment that would serve no purpose. And it happens almost every day. Court judgments are flouted. And this is why sometimes I have clients who will say, let's sue the government to the African Commission or to the ECOWAS. Or that. Sometimes I tell them, to know those things, sometimes you may end up having just paper judgment. Because at the international level, what we have even is weaker than what we have at the state institution, at domestic level. Because at the international level, there is no enforcement mechanism. They don't have police. They don't have sheriff division. But at the local level, unless we have the police, we have the sheriff division, what you need is their cooperation. And the cooperation sometimes it depends on the face or the individual that is concerned. So it's difficult. It's
difficult because that's why I was saying, for example, if the enforcer itself is the one who is violating here, how do you enforce that?
Exactly. I always say, yeah. Like a police example. If a court makes an order, arrest the IGP for an example.
For example, yeah.
Who will go and arrest the IGP?
Who will give that order?
Or arrest President Barrow?
Who will give that order?
Or arrest the minister? Minister of Justice, who would go and execute those orders? Because it's his subordinate.
If it is under the AG, he can be arrested.
Yes.
No, but the AG will not do that.
Yes.
No, you would have separated the Minister of Justice.
Yes, and this is why your point is very important. To have an independent institution, and to me, having the police under the AG with this structure that we have is not enough.
It's not enough.
It's either when you have the IGP under the AG and the minister, because there is Attorney General, there is a Minister of Justice. The two portfolios must be divorced.
Separated, yes. Yeah. That
if they are divorced, the Attorney General is a professional lawyer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right? He does his work like a lawyer, like any other person.
Yeah.
And then he can be supervisor or the DPP can be under him.
Because the Attorney General, the Minister of Justice, who advises the presidency on all legal matters, and the AG chambers, who's supposed to, it has to be separated.
Yes. Political and professional.
It's political and professional. It cannot be.
It's just like the problem.
It's been a long time.
Yes.
I mean, people have talked about it.
It's just the problem we have, like the district tribunal. Yeah. You have a tribunal which the heads or some of the members are political appointee and also judicial officers, because they are safe, do administrative or government executive work, and also they preside over matters. That is problematic. It's the same thing having the Minister of Justice to be the Attorney General. It could be problematic, right? Because drawing the line sometimes could be difficult. So if we want to have the police under the Attorney General, we need to separate the Attorney General from the Minister. Or we have the office of the DPP taken away under the Ministry of Justice. It would be an independent institution like the Audit Office. Yeah. You know, National Audit Office could be under the Ministry of Finance. Yeah. But because it deals with finance and accounting general,
it used to be, but they haven't.
Exactly. You have to divorce it. Yeah. And this is why presently many people only speak good thing about the National Audit Office because it feels independent. Yeah. So if we have the office of the DPP also independent, and the appointment of Gudo subject to the National Assembly
by the National Assembly.
And tenure, his security of tenure properly guided, then we will have him exercise independent judgment. He would prosecute, he would investigate, he would do his work without feeling that tomorrow my children would not go to Marena. Because if I am sent home, my children would not go. So unless we try to have those things, still now we will be having
That is
problems.
why we need a new constitution. For the office of the IGP, the holder of that office should be scrutinized by the National Assembly and be given a tenure, and they know their jobs is guaranteed and they cannot be just fired by the president like that. That way they can be independent. But if I know that I'm going to be fired by the president, why would I investigate the president or anybody close to him? These are some of the reasons why it is important our laws need to be looked at. For us to have create strong institutions instead of strong men. Unless we do that, we'll continue to have issues.
And the 1997 Constitution, before it went to referendum, when it was drafted by the drafters, it has that protection. The IGP was to be subject to National Assembly, vetting, and the president does the appointment. All the head of departments were to be taken to the National Assembly to be vetted and go. But when the draft was submitted to the junta, before it goes to referendum, they also had their own lawyers who cleans
and took some of those things.
Some of those things, safeguard, and restricted it to the president. And so the president became the overall whatever he designed, he does the appointment without consultation of that. So that draft, if it had seen its way to the referendum, we would have had a very good constitution. I think this is why the draft constitution 2020, is it 2020? The one that failed, had also similar safeguards. If it had passed, we would have also gotten a framework that we can work. But sometimes the problem is not our laws. You can have beautiful laws.
We do have beautiful laws.
But if we are not committed to those laws, they mean nothing to us.
The problem is not lack of
laws. We just signed access to information, but we still don't get information anyway. That is just the basics. We signed that, the president assent to it, but you write to State House to say, I want this information. He knows, he takes you write to departments, I want this information, it's difficult.
In fact, I rather use connections than
the write directly. So that's the way to get information.
The writing takes you
So this is why sometimes we will speak about laws, not the laws. Let's speak about building institutions. Let's speak about building capacities. Because if we build institutions and the people manning that institution do not have the capacity, they wouldn't know. Most of the things that are happening is because the holder of that office does not know. You go to an institution like an many a time. When we go to court in a criminal case, the investigating officer comes to court because there is confession. He wants to tender the confession, or the prosecutor wants to tender the confession through him. And there are procedures to be followed. Right? You ask the police officer, do you know the judge's rules? Which is a primary document that every investigator must know, because it guides you through the process, what you need to do. And they will tell you no. Right? So this is where you have a confession, the person agreed that he committed a crime, and the independent witness is not there. Or the independent witness came and signed after you have obtained the statement. And someone's case will crumble on that, because you needed that to have secured a conviction, perhaps, and you are not able to see that, and you see the person walking away. And this is why sometimes our society would say, we all know he killed, but he's out.
Working free.
He's working free. What happened to our justice system? Sometimes, because it's these things that happen, that the most important document that would secure his conviction, do not speak to the other evidence to make a story, as Mustapha said. And if there is no story, there is nothing to believe.
There's nothing to believe.
So that is the problem. We need to build capacity.
We need to build capacity.
Yes, if we do not do that and build laws without institution and capacity,
we'll still be in the same place. So Mustapha, I was Mustapha, but while he's doing that, I'm just going to call my brother. I'm going to make an exception for my brother, Esther Bokar, so he can clarify that, because I don't want it to make it look like, we,
Okay.
but I want to say thank you to Kala Jula Jobate for the stars and Mark, my brother Mike Lemon, and all the others who are sending us stars. Thank you very much. So we will have Suleiman. Hello, Suleiman Boka. Maudo. Maudo. Jarama Tanala.
Jamtan.
Yo, welcome. Welcome to Kerr Fatou.
Thank you.
So we're just making this exception. Normally we don't take calls on this show, but I think it's important. I made reference to a comment you made on Facebook about common law, section 7, I think. I'm not a lawyer, I don't know, so I just asked, reference to my question. You want to make a clarification on that?
Interestingly, when you raise a particular point,
yeah,
the person who informed me,
yeah,
could not explain in detail what was your lawyer's response.
yeah.
But having started to listen now, I have heard him saying that the common law contempt applies when it comes to disobeying court orders.
Yeah.
That is right. Similarly, precisely when it comes to reporting restrictions on crimes, the common law principles of contempt of court applies. Now, there are two types of contempt. There is a common law contempt and a strict liability contempt. Now, the common law contempt, which consists of publishing materials which creates a substantial risk of serious prejudice to proceedings which are imminent or pending with the intention to create risks. Okay? When it comes to contempt based on strict liability, in this case, it is strict liability because your intentions no longer matter so long it causes substantial risks of serious prejudice in it. So based on those common law principles, once an arrest is made, reporting restrictions come into place. The Gambia have common law as part of its law and have been applying common law principles literally almost on every single Gambian case law you looked at. You will come across common law principles. That is how the common law judicial precedents influence our own justice administration processes in the country. And I wouldn't want to get into the details of what happened with Mankajang because I don't want to put him at a disadvantage. Likewise, I've heard you said you've also conducted interviews. I've seen that, I've ignored it. As a person who really believed in the freedom of the press, my intention is not to be throwing colleagues under the bus. That is why I decided to keep quiet on most of the things that are happening. But I was quick to make that very short comment. There is a need to adopt professional standards. And in adopting professional standards, we should take into consideration the type of a legal framework on which our media is operating. Crime reporting, court reporting, it's one of the trickiest areas of journalism. Usually legal scholars would say it is not for an amateurish reporter because there are specific rules and procedures you need to follow so that you do not interfere with the administration of justice, either by helping the accused person to be free, to be innocent, or helping the prosecutors to get a conviction. In essence, reporting restrictions are designed in a way that justice, there would be a fair trial, precisely. But in another way around, it helps the media in the sense that it protects the media from libel and other related lawsuits. And I've seen in this particular incident, in fact, when the guy was arrested, some were posting a particular photo, which was not the guy. And apparently when another picture came in, they posted.
But Bokar, let me come in here. I wanted to come in here. For example, as media, people in the media, the role media also play to help guide and inform the public. For example, in the instance where, in that exact instance where Sankare spoke about this person being working at Brikama Area Council, and our interview proved that the family proved that he never worked at Brikama Area Council. The interview brought that out, right? But there also other instances where he said certain things and it proved to be, in instances where the media makes no interviews about all of these things. For example, no interviews and we say nothing, all over the world. I watch CNN, I watch BBC, and I watch all these news networks. When crimes happen, when incidents happen, they talk to victim families. They talk to people, other families of, even like the shooter. You see CNN, Anderson Cooper saying, we want to know the mindset of the shooter, the time he was doing. They talk to their families, they talk to that. And I think common law is in all those countries as well. I mean, if you want to say once an arrest is made, no media, we should not make media interviews, that makes it very restrictive for anybody to know anything apart from what the police are only saying to us. Then that makes it difficult to have access to all the informations. What about investigative journalists as well, who are also doing parallel investigations towards the police, in line with what the police are also doing? How do we come in here?
I'll come to that. With regards to your reference of this international mainstream medias, just today, there was a murder case in London, okay?
Yeah.
And the BBC was reporting that particular murder case.
Yeah.
But what the reporter did was to get quick statement, not a verbal family, the victim family, not the accused. Not the accused family, and I've watched your interviews of the accused family. What you did is called framing in a way that carefully, if one studied it, if you're not careful, it's like helping the accused and his family to construct a particular narrative that, okay, he was dealing with mental health issues.
No, not really, no. That was never, in fact, that was never, that's not your intention. Yeah, but that was never, the intention was to go, know this person, who is he, what is, yeah. So that, if the family presents...
So let me just explain that.
Yeah.
Yes, let me just explain it.
Okay.
No, I'm now telling you how tricky. Now, when contempt applies, it doesn't look at whether your intention is this or that. It has a strict liability so long that publication contributes to substantial risk of serious prejudice. And I've heard your lawyers saying, in a criminal case, the standard everywhere, the prosecution must prove their case beyond reasonable doubt. And now, if there's any conflicting information that creates doubts, particularly in the minds of the adjudicator, by reading publicities outside, that could cause miscarriage of justice.
The first one that will carry that is the Sankara statement, and that's the first one.
I'm coming to that.
Okay.
I've also made a I think it was about 5 words posting on Facebook that I was surprised Sankara would grant an interview at the stage.
I saw that.
In fact, going to the extent of explaining material evidence based on preliminary investigation. Now, in law, that's called rehearsing evidence. And now his rehearsal of the evidence, what has it created? You have the Brikama Area Council issuing a statement that he is not working with them. You have the UDP having a press conference, distancing themselves from it. What does that create? It creates doubts. And that is what the media should avoid. For me, that is my whole point. I didn't want to talk about Mankajang case specifically, what he went for or what he did not go for. My entire point is the law says that the moment an arrest happens, a case is active, and when a case is active, reporting restrictions come in place. And there are a lot of common law case laws that I can point out, but I'll leave your lawyer to go and study that out for himself.
I will, you know what, me and you are going to have a conversation on this, you know, on another forum, because I strongly disagree with you. I'm not a lawyer, but I strongly disagree with you. So
no,
me and
you don't need to disagree with me. You're disagreeing with the position of the law.
I don't see any section, and none of my lawyers, those that I've spoken to, have given me any specific section on that. But you know, like I said, me and you will have to have a show on this. I'll set up a date and I will call you and we will have a show on this.
When we say common law,
yeah.
When we say common law, we are not necessarily referring to specific statutes. We are referring to precedents.
Okay.
I don't know whether you understand that.
I'm not a lawyer. I know what you're saying, but I'm not a lawyer. I don't know this. But like I said, I will set up something and we will do this, me and you, and I think this is going to be a good conversation. But thank you for coming on and clarifying. I don't know whoever told you this. If I call, I can okay next time. Okay. All right. All right. Thank you, Bakar. Thank you so much, Bakar. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, so
I just want to mention something.
Yeah.
Contempt is against a court, not against an institution, against a police officer or against a person.
Oh.
When we say contempt, it's a disrespect to a court.
Oh.
Right?
Yes.
It's a disrespect to a court because issues are before the court that you have done an act which prejudice those proceedings. Right? Now, hypothetically,
yeah,
right, if someone is arrested, investigation is going on, is the matter before the court?
Not yet.
Are you disrespecting a court?
No. That's what I'm saying.
And the other point I want to make, in our laws, nobody shall be punished or can be punished under undefined law. There must be a statute creating that offense. This is why common law offenses, so long as they are not codified in our law books, are not punishable. Right? There are common law offenses that exist, but you cannot charge someone based on those offenses in our country, because our law says nobody can be charged or punished for an offense which is not created by our statute. Do you understand? So the issue of common law, I think let me leave that.
Yeah, leave
maybe that is lawyer's argument.
For me,
yes,
it's like,
thank you so much, Jobe. I think
for me, it's like some university professor talking about some hypothetical situation.
Yeah,
Because me, as what I do.
Yeah.
I mean, this is silly. I mean, you can't tell me you don't investigate cases because police are investigating. We are all dealing with the same.
See, that's
sources.
what I see a lawyer saying the same thing. He said that's why status takes over, precedence over common law.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
He
So
said the same thing.
every
Yes.
investigations we do.
Yeah, and he
police
says
are-
common law allows for nuisance approach to legal issues. It allows judges to consider unique circumstances. So
And more importantly, in our laws, it says common law is applicable to the Gambia so long as we do not have domestic provision on a particular area. Right?
Yeah.
If we have a particular provisions on a particular area, common law does not apply. Now, the section that deals with tampering with witness, there is nowhere it mentions eminent proceedings. Nowhere in these sections it mentions eminent proceedings. right? And eminent proceedings mean it is either before the court, but proceedings is yet to start.
Yeah.
Right? But it has not mentioned eminent proceedings. And that case section is created on the proceeding before a court. You see, I do not want to zero this case, handle this matter to a particular case. Do you understand? But that provisions for someone.
I'm so glad you're saying
I don't want to be a
I'm so glad you're saying this, but at some point, you know,
but you know, in practice, what we do, I'm not saying some university professor can flout some theories around, but in practice, what we do is practically not possible.
Yeah.
I mean, every case you are working at any point, it's either probably before the court. If you're an investigative journalist, if you have been for even one story, that you know that. Every case is either before a court at a point, or it's going to be brought before the court at some point.
Yeah.
Or it's an old case probably that's passed, but probably police are even looking into it still.
Yeah.
And police can come up with all sort of excuses. If this is a law, then it's certainly a bad law that people like me will violate every time.
Yeah. That's true.
Because it's in practice, it's just not possible.
It does not. It doesn't make sense, and I don't see it being a practice anywhere. I watch news every single day.
It's impossible. I mean, crime investigators. In fact, crime investigators. There are instances where crime investigators are working. Journalists who are crime investigators are working on crime at the same time as the police.
The police are doing,
You know,
Yeah.
They both would. You know, you will have your sources, and they will have their sources. And you will make sure, of course, you don't behave, because journalism also, it's professional. It's a professional job. You don't go about intimidating and harassing and this and that.
Yeah.
You're collecting evidence the same way the police are collecting evidence, and you're compiling your case the same way the police are compiling their case.
Yeah.
Same way, like we did in the Roy case.
Yeah.
The police said there is no case. We compiled our case. For us, our court is the public. We compiled our case and we gave it to the public.
Yeah.
And the public believed there was a case.
Yeah.
And then the Minister of Children said, you guys should help us with your file. And we submitted it to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So had we not do that, the police would not have any idea what happened, I mean, from the headquarters.
Yeah.
So
Mustapha, finally, before we go, before we wrap up, I want us to look at your story. I read it and I was just so saddened by that kind of harassment. I know we spoke about this, and I said this is something that a lot of people go through. At some point, most of us have gone through one form of abuse in our careers, where people wanted to take advantage of you. And reading this got me so emotional. This young lady who was really, all she wanted was to make sure her grades are properly captured in the portal. And along the line, she got, harassed, and to the point of being strangled. And what an interesting, crazy. Give us a brief, about the story and how you got to work with this. And the mindset you do to get people open up to you about some of these things. These are things that not everybody will.
Some said I'm not good at making friends, but I'm good at making people
talk to you. And that really, because
this is it's a case that come to me through an intermediary.
Yeah.
And of course, I think that the girl also is a very strong woman with interest in justice. Very brilliant and very strong woman who wouldn't just be broken down by anybody. And I think even if you look at the story, you get that picture.
Yeah.
Someone who is very intelligent and strong.
Yeah.
So we got to have it, and we had access to the audio, and we reviewed it, and we went to the college. We speak to some people who are active witnesses, like the security guards, the guy at the grade office, to verify if, in fact, a grade was entered, to look at the distance between the office in question and the gate where the guard ran to talk to the security.
Yeah.
And also college students
Yeah.
look at the general environment regarding grades there.
Yeah.
And also speak to folks who are involved, who had issues with grades, and observe. In fact, even around Baji's office, you would have seen, students gathered there. There are 2 chairs there. So students, some would be seated, some would be inside. So you realize this is a busy place. The great issue of grades is a common place. And I think it's the same thing even at the university also.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and so when we verified and we, to the best of our knowledge, so in the text messages also we have seen, we believe that this is true. Because you see, a journalist is also like a police in some way. An investigative journalist is an advocate.
Yeah. So
me, at any point, my loyalty is not to the person who abused or steal public money. No. So as I think, allegation is not in my head. That's for the court.
Yeah.
In my head, my constituent is the person who alleges being abused. And at that point, I'm trying to verify based on objective, my best level of objectivity possible, whether there is a likelihood this crime happened. Right? And so you are verifying evidences in that light. So you are looking at the text messages that they exchanged. So they've exchanged a series of text messages, and I have copies of those text messages. So I went through that, and I was looking at, and I had a recording of him in a 15-minute meeting where he has said some few things. So I was comparing the text messages and what he has said, and what the security said he told him. So I realized it's true, because if the security says, if a crime happened here, and Mr. Jobe said, well, I met Fatou there, and Fatou says, I don't care.
Yeah.
And I listened to, there was a meeting here, and you tell someone, yeah, I told Mr. Jobe, I don't care. Then I can verify Mr. Jobe's statement to be authentic, because he told me, you said you don't care. And you come to tell securities also, you don't, I told him I don't care. So you've corroborated what he said. So in other words, then therefore, Mr. Jobe must have met you at the place he said he met you. Yeah, reason exists to believe that.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? So some of those things happen. So for example, the girl tells you a story, and you come to find that story in the trail of text messages, and you come to listen to this joint college meeting where he has made statements, and you come to believe he has said some few things, and it also tells you the profile of the individual, both in his tone, his way of expression, and you compare the voices, and so you when you are satisfied that this is true, then you put it together and have it published. So yeah, I mean, we did it because we believed the guy.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's like you said, abuse cases are very common. Yeah. I each time we worked on one, both me and anyone who reviewed those stories, they get really angry, because I mean, there's a reason why it's called journalism of outrage. It's not for anything we're doing this. You're doing it because you are equally angry because some things are happening.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, you listen to it, and it's just like the Roy story or the Penny appeal before it or any other abuse case. That we have a society where these things are happening. In fact, when I went to the college, stories started trickling in, and some people started saying, a few things about either the person in question or either the person in question or other students in relation to similar situations. Yeah.
Wow, interesting. I know the case is in court, so
it's in court, but
just went to court, so we'll follow. So that is why it's good that you investigated this. You got all your facts right, whilst the police were also working on, and they definitely knew you were doing it.
I went to the police and I spoke to him.
And you spoke to them.
I mean, I went to the gentleman investigating it, and I sat down. I spoke to him. 3 of them were in the office, 2 girls, and one boy, and I spoke to him, and he was quite open.
Yeah.
I mean, one thing I have to say, the system is not. We have a leadership problem. We don't lack people to fix the country. We don't lack that. We have a leadership problem where the available capacity is not mobilized properly to solve the problems. You would go to an institution and find that someone wants to do the right thing. I've seen that all throughout.
Yeah.
You've gone to a place and you've seen the police, you have seen a police officer who is good, upright, wants to do right things, difficult as it is. You've seen prosecutors at the law AG's office who wants to do the right thing, difficult as it is. You go to a particular office, so at some point what happens also is that they drown.
Yeah.
You know, it's like if you are swimming against the tide, no matter how good you are a swimmer, you drown at some point.
Yeah.
Good people get drowned because the system is like that.
Yeah.
So they swim until they are tired. I can no longer change this. They drown. But we have good people. I mean, I have interacted with good police officers. I've had cases when I'm working on some things, police officers go to verify things for me.
Yeah.
And at no cost, I just call and tell you, I want to know this, where are you and the person, I want to know this. And they go and do it.
Yeah.
They are friends. You have that. You have tons of good people in the system.
In the system.
But there is a leadership problem, generally. It's all over the place.
It's all over. No, finally, Mustapha, on your part, what do you think going forward that the government and the police should do to build the public confidence, especially regarding this incident, this case? Because, you know, I have said this, when this incident happened, the entire country came around the police. Nobody want to see our law enforcement being attacked, because we go to sleep and they are there out there protecting us. That is what they're supposed to do, to protect lives and properties.
And who are police officers anyway?
They are us.
Yeah,
it's my sisters
homes.
and they're from us.
If you continue to shoot police officers, you shoot my cousin.
Shooting my
someday.
cousin or my brother, because we have people that are serving in this in police. So we in as much as, you know, they're doing a job and they're doing this job for us. At night, I go to bed sleeping. You have these officers at traffic light, turntable. They're there until 5 a.m. I don't know what is happening, but they're trying to protect me and my property. So they need to be protected, and that's why when this incident happened, every single Gambian was concerned. We were worried, we were concerned. Now, I know when these misinformations came, people started getting worried and people started saying things, but I know generally the Gambians really don't mean bad for the police. I think it's more of the information that they're getting that people feel like there's some misinformation, and that is bringing a lot of concern. Going forward, what do you think the police and the government in particular should do to gain the public trust so that this case can go to court and the evidence are brought to and justice be served for Pate and Sang, and of course also for Nancy, and so that in the future nobody attempts something like this?
You see, I think politicians should move away from law enforcement. Yeah, that's the first good step.
Yeah.
Politicians have no business in law enforcement, whether in investigations, in prosecutions, whatever. I mean, they should just supervise the people in charge of it to make sure they're delivered efficiently, whether it's the IGP, and make sure they are resourced adequately, or at least proportionately, so that they could do their job professionally.
Yeah.
That's the first good step. And the second thing is that the police need to have tools. You know? So, for example, it doesn't cost a lot of money to put CCTV cameras in a lot of our places. It wouldn't cost a lot of. I mean, we do stories about one racket that could do that.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, you just bounce in one.
Especially public
financial
places.
mismanagement that could just fix in most public places. And that's one good thing. And also, you know, police has some good capacity. Huh?
Yeah, they do.
They do have some good capacity.
They
you
have
go to police, you have
lawyers,
people,
you know,
who have been there for a long time.
Yeah.
And they know they know how every case presents itself, because experience is like is not any different from going to university, because you deal with an event and you interact with that such events in different ways, and you know how every event unfolds. And so they adequately resource the investigation unit, and make sure it's also under good supervision. They could utilize the capacity at the AG's office very early on in their investigation. In fact, if you ask me, I had suggested that one time that all gender-based violence cases should be taken away from the police and taken and then handled in terms at the prosecution level, handled by the
AG's chambers.
Yes, AG's chambers. I've always said that. I think AG chambers needs a special unit for that, but also boost police. I mean, forensic unit. So that they have a forensic department that is equipped. I mean, currently I know they do, but in fact they have, I think, only one forensics guy, and I don't know, one audio visual expert, one. So they need more capacity. I mean, in 5 years, if you send 50 police officers, it wouldn't cost you $10 million. 50 police officers to any country where they could acquire such kind of capacity. $10 million is not money. I can assure you, it's nothing. You do one racket, even waste in one office, waste on internet, waste on fuel alone is more than 10 million. You could train significant number of police officers on those critical areas, and you bring them. In 5 years, we would have had a police force that's secure, because crime also
evolves.
And even us, even economic,
economic crimes,
they evolve,
evolve,
and as the globalized world shrinks, a crime anywhere becomes crime everywhere. Like we worked on Reni's case, and you would realize that Reni was operating in Italy, he was operating in Austria, he was operating in Germany, and now he's in Turkey. So, and he was in the Gambia. So you need capacity, so police needs to be equipped.
They need to be equipped.
But
that's the
most important thing, politicians stay out of it. All the blunders the police have made, all the assaults, the brutalization, the beating of people, they were all political. They were all political orders. Not a single one. IG does not sit and say, go there and beat people. It's never happened in the history of this country. I've never seen a case like that, where an IG authorized police to go beat people just because of his own decision. It's always political, even under Jobe. It's always political decisions where people utilize and weapon. That's why I said security service reform will continue to be a scam until you have institutional reform. Because security individuals are handled by civilians. It's poor leadership. Poor leadership leads to poor conduct of security. So whatever the soldiers and the police are doing, it is the civilian authorities that ask them to do it.
That's true.
So
That's true. Thank you very much, Mustapha. And finally, Sheriff, what do we need to do to enhance our legal institutions to be able to properly make sure every Gambian, whether they have caused crime or before any court pass a judgment on them, their rights are respected? Just basic, simple rights. What do we need to do? Where do we need to start? How do we achieve that?
I think to achieve that, I think we need to do more awareness raising. We have to create awareness, and that involves one from every actor in the administration of justice. People should be trained. Like police officers, I always said that in their police training manual, there must be a human rights area or topic or models. There must be a constitutional model. There must be rule of law, justice models, whereby you start training people at that young age or at that initial stage of their career, that's the importance of respecting people's rights. And once that is gone, that is done, it would go a long way. The same thing applies to every security institution. The way the police, the immigration, the army, or the drug squad. They need to be trained on these areas. And for the citizens, I think also I would advocate we have education around these areas since at infancy stage. At the primary school, we have a government subject, we have a human rights subject, we have civics education. Do you understand? That would enhance people, because once society is aware of their right, it would force institutions to rally behind that. Because if few individuals are aware and the majority do not, then you cannot go anywhere. So the education is very important, and I think the people responsible for formulating our curriculum should really look into that. And the other thing equally, we need to build the capacity of people administering justice, because sometimes you tend to forget some of these things. There must be professional development training. In other institutions, lawyers, every year you have to do professional training to polish or to refurbish your skills and knowledge and all whatnot. The same thing applies to Georgia. The same thing applies to senior police officers too. So anyone who is involved in the process, I think, need to be abreast with some of the development that are happening, and also to nurture our democracy. Democracy is very expensive.
Yes.
It's very expensive because it comes with a lot of hurdles, because it requires people to respect the rule of law, and respecting rule of law requires everybody from top to bottom. So once we have people really living by those ideals, then it will go a long way in solving this problem. And the other thing, people should have convictions. We need to have something that we believe in. Something that we are ready, principle that we are ready to die for. Right? So that once that happens, if a police officer knows that really I cannot allow anyone to be detained for more than 72 hours, nobody would be detained. If the society condemns people to be detained more than 72 hours, they would insist on those things. So we must have things that we believe, the principles, and that goes to say we have to have principle in our constitution that we respect, that we cherish, irrespective to whom it applies, that we all rally behind that and say the right thing must be done. And once we do that, we will build a society. But unfortunately, there is, to me, as far as governance is concerned, we do not have common denominator. There is nothing that binds us together. There is nothing that would happen that would rally every voice in this country and condemns it. We condemn things that we want to condemn. Things that do not affect.
We believe in teams. We have teams.
Exactly.
As long as it's not your team, you don't comment on it.
So there should be things that if you touch it, Mustapha would be angry. Fatou would be angry. Sheriff would be angry. Do you understand? Unless we have that, there is nothing that we can build on. We have to have things that we value as a society. So I think once we have that, some of these things would be think of the past. Because sometimes, I used to be a prosecutor anyway.
Oh.
Yes. Sometimes when you don't feel it, you don't know it. When I was prosecutor, perhaps the level of sentiment I had, or the level of affiliation or understanding of what an accused person go through is different from now being a defense lawyer, having to go to mile 2 and see the conditions of my clients. When I was a prosecutor, I've never visited mile 2 to see how the suspect or how the accused person are being detained. But as a defense lawyer, I am compelled to go and see my client very often. And there is this person who was convicted when he was a judge. He used to be very strict. And when he was convicted, he went to mile 2, and when he came back, he said if he knew what was in mile 2, he would not have sent anyone there. So sometimes I think it is important us dealing with these things to actually have a first-hand experience of these things, to really know. Because otherwise you don't care someone spending a night in mile 2 if you have never been denied going out from your house. To me, even stopping me from going out from my house 1 hour, do you understand? I can't do that. Talk less of you putting me in mile 2. So if you understand some of these things, you will hesitate to do certain things, because the law also, or the court, you have so many discretions to do, right? But you exercise those discretion according to what you know. Do you understand? But if you know, okay, this place is harsh, this place is that, where you can exercise discretion, you can easily exercise. But if you don't know, you don't know. You can't blame me for what I do not know. So it is important too, as legal practitioners or as people involved in the administration of justice, to occasionally go into this institution and see what is happening. Right? You will be surprised if you go to one police cell, what the condition that you will see. I think I was watching your Grad Bantaba Silfo, what he mentioned that you pee in the presence of everyone. That is taking your dignity out. Right? Having to pee in the presence of people, and more, going to toilet, you have to have your chamber pot waiting for you. In the morning, you go and discharge that chamber pot and come.
You have to have that in yourself.
Yes. He said at night when they close. Yeah, he said at night when they lock the gates, if you want to pee, you don't go out. You use in front of everybody.
Exactly. So
in the police cell.
If you do not feel it, imagine now Sirfo being in position to be responsible for suspect. He would not do that because he knows what it feels.
Yeah. So
some of these things, if you are not pinch or punch, you will not know how bad it hurts. But if it does, and
I spoke to a lawyer one time, and I said I need to do a show, and now this brings that feeling all over. And he was explaining, he was telling me how we need to do civil society, and we talked about this, me and you, and that's something we're working on. We'll be working with you guys on, just to bring light to some of the situations in detention places. This guy was telling me how sometimes, like, some people are in remand, right? Just because they don't have a day in court, they're in remand. People can be waiting in remand for 3-4 years, like for even petty cases, right? Or some people, you are fined for 5,000 or 3,000, they cannot even pay for it, they are languishing in jail and all those things, but the conditions they are in. But some people, they have not even they have not even been convicted, but because they cannot even get a day in court. And they are in detention for all these years, going through all of these things with those conditions. These are some of the things we need to look at. And I think coming from lawyers, a lawyer told me this some time back, and he was like, I think you guys have the platforms, you need to raise awareness on these issues. What we go through when we go to Mile 2 to look at our clients, sometimes you come home, you cannot even eat or do anything.
I work for an organization that we established in 2018, and we were looking into something, and we even during our investigation we came to realize that you can have someone Mile 2 without an order of a court. There are individuals who would forge a signature of a magistrate ordering you to be in Mile 2.
In Gambia here?
In Gambia. And if that situation happens, you are in Mile 2, right, and there is no active file before the court, how possible will your matter be called? So you will be there and forgotten. And once you are presented at the prison, at the gate, all they require you is an order of the court. So if you have an order purported to be a signature of a magistrate, they will not doubt it, they will keep you in. So if there is no file before the court, you will continue to be Mile 2 until God knows. And this is why recently when I had the judiciary establish a committee for prison visit, I think I applauded that, because that is very good, because when you go there, you will have opportunity to know who is there, why you are there, the reasons. And you can have opportunities, some of them will tell you, I am here, I've never appeared in court. So some of those things could be documented, and they will bring it to the office of the Chief Justice, and he can engage the necessary or the relevant institution to deal with those things. So I think that would also come. National human rights equally should do more. Yes, prison visits should be consistent. Police stations visits should be consistent, and sometimes you don't have to give notice.
Yes.
When you
The
give
only
me a
difference
notice
is
that
they will
you come
create-
into my house,
Yeah.
I will make
And
sure
do some
If you tell
facility
them, you
cosmetics.
not set up
Exactly.
everything. Of course,
Exactly.
matal to write it. Yep.
Exactly.
But if
Exactly.
you just
Yes.
come there without any notification,
Exactly.
but I think, like you said, the Human Rights Commission, the the authorities should do more.
More, yeah.
People even in detention, they still have rights, and those
Exactly.
rights should be observed. So.
And more importantly, the last point that I want to make
Yeah.
is the fact that as a lawyer, you will have a client either in the police station or at mile 2, you want to talk to him, and a police officer would stand right in your presence. You're talking to your client in the presence of an officer.
But is that not supposed to be lawyer-client privacy
exactly.
there?
Clients, lawyers,
Private, yeah.
privileged communications.
Privileged communications, yeah.
What the law provides, you must be out of hearing. You can be seeing the person, but you have to be out of hearing. And that is never respected. I've practiced for almost 7 years now, but I've never seen it. Yes. They would bring your client and sit next to you, hear what the client have to tell you. Either at even at the police station, usually they will allow you to speak to the person on the counter.
But if you are supposed to build a defense with this person,
Exactly.
you are
How are you
supposed to
going to
have
do
a
that?
conversation and just put your plans together. He tells you some of the things he wouldn't want anybody to hear.
Exactly.
How do you do that?
Comes down to,
How do you do that?
We choose also easy routes here.
Yes,
I
yes.
mean, because people don't want to do their work, they choose the shortcut to building a case file.
At the beginning of my private practice, I nearly have a problem when I went to the prison because I insisted the person must move. Right, but he refused. You understand? And that was Jobe time, so you had to comply. But as time goes on, I begin to understand that this is their mode of operation. And I had one occasion with the DG, that is something money, and I told him, your law, their law, the Prison Act, equally mentioned that you must be out of hearing. Yes, but
no,
your
at that place, I once went there with somebody.
Yes.
The prison environment, it's quite hostile. So I was there with Dr. Gajigo one time. He went to see someone.
Yeah.
So he brought me along. And when we walked out, he was talking to that individual, and I sat by. And so he asked me, hey, Mustapha, yeah, he's a journalist. They said I must leave. I also came to see someone.
But journalists come to see people?
Yes, they said I must leave. Dr. Gajiko nearly exchanged blows with them that day. He said I was not going to leave.
But I'm very concerned about that,
Yes,
the client privilege.
Exactly. And this is why when part of the things that we can do, I think in every police station, they must have a special office that where client conference with their lawyers. That is private. Because it's meant to be private. A client is just like a doctor. Yeah. Right? You cannot hide your nakedness to your doctor. It's the same thing. Clients cannot hide anything from you as a lawyer. Yeah. He must disclose everything to you. But if there is a third party, he would never disclose those things. And this is why majority of us as defense counsel now, we just visit you for the sake of visiting you, but we will not conference with you. We will allow when you go to court or when you are granted bail, that's the time we try to conference with you. That's where you tell us everything that we need to know. Because in the presence of the officers, you can never tell.
Oh, interesting.
So these are some of the, I think, reforms or some of the areas that need improvement for us to live in a better society. Because sometimes today is someone, tomorrow it could be you. Nobody is immune from all these things.
And I think it's right.
Just like Jesus says, it's turn by turn.
Turn by turn.
That is the thing.
Yes.
That's how it works.
It's how it works. Thank you so much, Sheriff. This is a very interesting conversation. I think I enjoyed this conversation more myself because, it's some of these things that we keep asking ourselves, like the 72 hours, the court orders, all of these fine lines between our work and the law, and so I think this is even more educating for me as a person than I think I see a lot of people.
And the person that told you Sunday is not counted, that's not true.
Sundays are counted.
Sunday is counted.
Okay.
It's only exempted if the event happened. How to call it? Is the last day happen on Sunday?
Yeah.
The police of the person is excused, and the following day, but it's part of the counting days.
Part of the counting days.
Yes.
Wow, thank you
It
very
is
much.
excluded for periods that are provided by Act, but these ones are not provided by Act. These are constitutional provisions, because we have what is called Interpretation Act, which says that Sundays are excluded in the competition of time. But that act apply to only act of National Assembly. A constitution is not an act of National Assembly.
Wow. So if somebody is arrested on Friday, it's to start on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday.
Exactly.
So some weekends are included.
Yes, they are.
I think it's important for us to know this, because these days and time, you don't know when you will be called for questioning at this point. That's where we find ourselves.
Certainly.
But we'll continue to do our job. Thank you so much, Mustapha. You know, ni ate ite okay. Tine jubela. Ante buka police station.
Ndaras baro fa binanji.
Buka police station. Baro bine jubela.
Mustapha would not be arrested. Mustapha is the golden boy.
Huh?
Yes, people admire the work he does.
At this point, you know. Yeah, but I mean, you know, whatever happens in the carrying of our, that is noble, and I think, you know, we take pride in that. Thank you very much, Mustapha. I think great conversation. Well, this is home for you. But Sheriff, thank you so much. And, you know, there's something we want to work on. Yes. I think that materialized, because the kind of feedbacks I'm getting, the comments, people are enjoying this. People, a lot of people are eager. Now, one thing I like about the Gambian today is Gambians are very much vested in knowing their right. Gambians want to know, they want to engage, they engage in these things. You bring other things now, entertainment, others, people don't watch. You bring conversations like this, people watch because they want to know, what is my right? What is the police doing wrong? What should they be doing? So, and having people like you, trained lawyers, who deal with these things day to day and telling us, it's something that a lot of people want to hear. Yeah. So I think it will be good to have more of these conversations, even if it's, like we said, once a month, just to have lawyers come out and talk about issues that are happening in society. That would be good.
It's going to be good. Like the issue of Suleiman, it would have been better handled if we are all lawyers discussing on issues of law. Yes, that would be
good. I think Suleiman, you know, I'm glad that he also came on, and you know, we had this kind of, I'm definitely going to have him to, you know, it's good to have a space where we can have divergent views on issues, and then have experts also, you know, come in and tell us what the law says about that. I want to thank him for that. Thank you very much, Sheriff. And my friend just texted, he said, that's my kid's lawyer, very respected, never absent, follow his case. You know, he just texted, thank you very much for your service. And I want to say that pro bono thing at the National Assembly, I'm going to be one of the advocates so we can get more pro bono from lawyers, because a lot of people in this country don't have access to legal services. But I know a lot of lawyers also who are giving free services to people. I mean, lawyers give me free service, you know, for defending me on issues, and we want to thank them for that, because sometimes
even us, we have free reviews.
No, seriously,
not for cases, but for our stories.
Me, I have all the 2 cases that I got involved in, free services from lawyers, and they're so committed to it, running after the case and doing everything.
But you know, also, the thing is, you are also different from somebody from the village.
I'm from Lamen.
But you're so privileged.
I'm from Mandinaring and Lamen, and that's why I want more of that.
And the privilege should not have pro bono. It should be
I cannot afford a lawyer. I cannot afford a lawyer, so I'm good they give me services like that, you know. I have lawyer friends. Me, I keep lawyers as friends, just in case. Because they got your back when you are in trouble.
Indeed.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Sheriff, and it's an honor to have you, and this was very fruitful conversation. Like we said, hopefully we put this thing together and the people will love it. And to you all watching, thank you very much. To my team, it's a public holiday, but we're here working, doing all of this for the viewers. Mustapha, Charles and his team, Sire, Mami and Fatsila, all of you, thank you so much, Mustapha. Until we come your way next week, bye-bye and see you again. Good night to you all. Bye.
yiriwa men kafatan na tarambuloluto nga GIA cargo complex parendile pour ka julaya sone yandi ka dungoni funti bundana doko sembentu ya Banjul International Airport oto men si nyafa si moluma melka fengolu ki bantala bankolu kan anin julandingolu fana faisi sula na cargo doko le bang katu masingolu be mbulule ikafo me ye forklifts melka selendiro ni jindiro ke bagasolu la melbe funti kan waranto ka dunnan na warehouse lu kono nga dinkira sumayari ngolu fana sotole ifula milla fano mu metar kemeleti karo bela adun isi cargo bagasolu tanole men sita fo ton tan woro ila sumaya fana futata tembeleto men ka fendolu mabono fo ikana tinya fo sene fengolu lombang domari fengolu waranto jata kende ani bori ma fengolu cargo bagasolu la taradula kendo asulata jamani laban korosir langolu lela na double view x-ray korosir la masingolu aka cargo bagaso kono jubele komi cargo doko sartolu ya landi nyameng nyin double view x-ray amu jamani laban rapid scanaleti men ka karafula korosiro keno cargo sifa bela wati kilingo kono to na doku lalo imu ayata karandingol leti miliyela doku no iframansata cargo doku na tamandiri nyato na doku la betea wayem futandi RA3 makamoleto men satin fo nse cargo bagasolu kinole kata UK aning EU bankolu kan GIA ka hakili tenkungo dila na doku woto ite nyina la men.
Every day is a new opportunity to make sure our first impressions are always our best and to see possibilities on the horizon, to make our facilities and services more accessible and find freedom all around us. With a location proximity to active markets, with a liberal air transportation policy, that daily pursuit is how we turn everyday opportunities for you. For all destination marketing support, customized packages for new existing airlines and operators, and for a highly ranked tourist destination, the Gambia Civil Aviation Authority is here to serve. We regulate air transport, operate and manage BIA technical requirements, merged with commercial considerations. We have experienced and well-trained aviation professionals to cater for your needs. For investment opportunities in building airport hotels, shopping malls, playground for children, do contact us on 4472-831, 4472-893. Gambia Civil Aviation Authority. We go beyond daily.